Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Now in this video, we will be discussing the ethics mains paper of UPSC 2025 examination. For those who have given mains already, I hope you're feeling a little bit relieved given the holidays that you have. I know you're saying, sir, it is not holidays, we have to revise, we have to do some answer writing practice, good enough. But nevertheless, I hope you feel a little bit relieved. Now, for those who have given the mains, if you're watching this video, please realize when I'm doing this video, I've had some good amount of time to look at the question paper. I've had some good amount of time to think of what should be the answers. Based on this video, please do not judge what kind of marks you might be getting. If you feel that there is even a small ounce of possibility that you might judge the answers that you have written already, then don't watch the video until and unless your mains is done. And as I have told multiple times in my classes, what you will be doing in the examination hall in that span of 7 to 8 minutes when you're writing an answer for a particular question matters a lot. So don't worry. All right. In case if you feel that you will not be stressed by the comparison, then go ahead and watch it. In case if you feel, no, sir, I will be stressed, watch it after your mains examination at a later point in time. Most of the other students who have not given mains, who have some years of experience in UPSC preparation, who have done their foundation courses, maybe some value addition course, maybe watching certain YouTube videos on ethics, or maybe certain answer writing courses that you have taken. For you, as well as those students who have absolutely no orientation towards ethics, they're just entering UPSC as of now. For both of you, this video is useful. How is it useful? Very simple. Here, this question paper, I'm not going to discuss each and every question in section A and section B in its entirety, in its great detailed manner, because if I start doing that, then it becomes a 3 to 6 hour exercise in itself. However, I will be giving you certain basic, certain simple pointers in terms of how you have to think when you have a question in front of you, an ethics question in front of you. And it is here that I believe the thought process can help you to become a much better writer when it comes to ethics answer writing. Remember, here we are focusing on the simplest thing of how to think when you have a question in front of you. If you remember, in your UPSC essay, there are two essay topics on simplicity. One, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, and the second one, all ideas having large consequences always have a simple solution. Here, the core purpose of the video, I'm reiterating again, is to help you to develop that thought process. All right. Now, let's start the discussion part of it. What were my impressions when it comes to this paper? The question paper, I found it to be on the challenging side. It was a typical UPSC paper. It was challenging because when I looked at some of the questions, they were, for instance, there is a quotation about the troubled, the untroubled, and things like that, which would demand some amount of more focus. There was this case study on Manrega, which would also demand a good amount of focus for you to write answers. So there were some questions which were not exactly like what your UPSC has asked before. So you had to spend some extra seconds trying to understand it. It was challenging. I'm not going to say it was the easiest paper. It was challenging. I was speaking with some of the students who have given mains examination and they were telling me, so the paper was doable. They completed the paper, but some of them had issues in terms of ensuring that there is quality in each and every answer that they have written. That's understandable. Most of the times that happens with some of the students. Was it the lengthiest paper, as some people are saying? I respectfully disagree with some people who are saying that it is the lengthiest paper because, as far as I'm concerned, 2022 was on the lengthier side. Okay. If you look at this question paper, section A as well as section B, the length of the questions are not that much as you saw in 2022. It was a challenging paper. It was a doable paper. The challenge, however, was to complete the question paper and to complete all the questions in a reasonable way. That is the only thing. Other than that, everything is sorted out. All right. Now, This question paper, is it on a predictable line as compared to other PYQs? Now, that is a question which I want you to answer at the end of this discussion, not now. Is it predictable or not? That is a question for you to answer after the end of this discussion. All right. Let us start discussing the first question. In the present digital age, social media has revolutionized our way of communication and interaction. However, it has raised several ethical issues and challenges. Describe the key ethical dilemmas in this regard. Now, usually, whenever I'm explaining any topic, either in the class or let us say a video session as such, what I generally do is I talk about the importance of that question in the contextual, in the current affairs. For example, not long ago on Netflix, there was a series called as Adolescence, which was released. And this adolescence, it caught the attention of multiple people, not only in our country, but also all across the world. What is the story here? Here you have a school going kid who was influenced by influencers like Andrew Tate, who was influenced by his toxic masculinity. And because of this influence, this small kid, school going kid, he adopted certain negative behaviors which eventually led to the murder of a girl in his classroom. Getting my point? Now, how we are learning the world in which we are inhabiting, it is being fundamentally determined to a very large extent on how you use social media. And you all know very well, social media has become part and parcel of all our activities, no matter whether you're young or you're old. People have social media accounts these days. And with more and more mobile penetration happening in our country, with access to affordable data package, the usage of social media will also increase. Before the age of social media, people used to interact, people used to communicate in a real world scenario where they used to meet people face to face. But after your social media has come into picture, there is a fundamental way, there is a fundamental change in how we interact also. Many people are more comfortable in interacting with others through the social media apps rather than meeting face to face, traveling the world, things like this. One thing which has helped me over the years, whatever question they give, not just in ethics paper, but also in every other GS paper, I ask myself, what is the contextual importance of this question? That gives me a necessary direction on how I should go about and write my answer. For example, the social media usage and the impact it is creating was highlighted in the famous Adolescence series released recently. Within the bracket, you can write what is the gist of that adolescence, impact of influencer culture. Put that influencer culture within inverted commas, influencer culture on the growth of impressionable young minds. Close the bracket and then you move on. This is one way of introducing. All right. Many people they start their introduction by defining the key terms which are there. For example, here you have key terms such as social media, interaction, communication. What many people do is social media has fundamentally changed the way we interact compared to a couple of decades ago. Here you're not adding any value addition. Here you're just paraphrasing. So when you paraphrase, there is nothing extraordinary in it. There is no value addition in it. So you might not be getting the kind of marks that you're expecting. Another way of introducing, let me tell you, always keep in mind what kind of syllabus topics this question corresponds to. For example, when I take this question, it corresponds to syllabus topics such as consequences of ethics in human action. That's one thing. And the second thing, determinants of ethics. So here you can use this determinants of ethics, consequences of ethics in human action, and then you can design a reasonable introduction. What could be the reasonable introduction? Social media is playing a prominent part in determining our thoughts, words, and actions. The way we use it in the right way, the way we use it in the right way, put this right way within inverted commas, the way we use it in the right way is going to determine the consequences in our human actions. I hope you got the idea. The choices that we exert while we use social media, should be based on moral considerations to ensure a good good consequence of ethics in our human action. Like this, you can write a reasonable introduction if you want. This introduction was based on syllabus terminologies. All of you following me? Now, moving forward, let us say you don't want a syllabus, you don't want a contextual, you want, let us say, a quotation based. Even here, you have various quotations. For example, you have a quotation which is basically related to artificial intelligence, but you can apply that here as well. So the quotation goes, artificial intelligence is not neutral. It reflects the values of its users and the people who have designed it. Now you can replace that artificial intelligence with your social media, and then after giving the code, just write 2 to 3 line elaboration, keeping in mind the first question, the demand of the first question, good enough. All of you are following me? So how will you write? Social media is not neutral. It reflects the values of its users and the people who have designed it. The next 2 to 3 lines you are going to write. Social media values is increasingly influencing our interaction and communication. Come on. The quality of these values can ensure that we build a country, that we create a destiny for this country that we can be proud of. Like this, you can write if you want. Getting my point? Next. Sir, I don't like syllabus introduction. Neither do I like your quotation introduction. I want to go with something else, sir. I want to go with something, let us say, from a thinker's point of view. So, from a thinker's point of view, you can bring Isaac Asimov here. Isaac Asimov very famously said, the tragedy is that science and technology develops at a much faster pace compared to the development in human wisdom. Getting my point? So, using this thinker's opinion, you can design an introduction. For example, Isaac Asimov, a popular thinker in 20th century, opined any advancement in technology must be complemented by human wisdom. Hyphen, the latter which requires careful consideration in the present social media age. If you write this, more than enough. All right. So for this question, I've given you multiple types of introduction. I can give you even more, but for the purpose of this discussion, let this much be enough. All right. So I've seen some of the students who write mains or who are preparing for mains. How they do it is, for each and every question or each and everything, they have a quotation ready. So first A question, they will write a quotation. First B question, again a quotation. Right. Second A, second B, again a quotation. Don't do this. It becomes very monotonous. So in your mind, have good, diverse qualitative content. If you have good diversity, qualitative content, you can write different types of introductions. You can make your answers really stand out. This is what I feel. Now, going to the body of the answer, here it is very simple. There are three structures here. One is you have to explain what are the ethical issues arising in this question. You have to explain what are the challenges that are there in terms of social media usage. You also have to talk about the dilemmas. All right. Now, here, many people they tend to combine issues, challenges, and dilemmas together. Please don't do that. Keep it separate. And in the first part of the video, where I was discussing in the initial few minutes, is this paper on predictable lines? Because I was hearing some people who have given mains saying to me, sir, it is not on predictable lines. I heard certain YouTube experts also saying the same thing, right? But when I look at this question, there is a similarity with one of the PYQs which was asked before. For example, the PYQ is the current internet expansion has instilled a different set of cultural values which are often in conflict with traditional values. Discuss. Right? So this PYQ and the one that was asked yesterday, there is a lot of similarity. All right. In the PYQ, they're asking about the dilemmas caused because of traditional versus your social media values, the present values. Along with that one demand, they've added two more. What are these two more demands? You have to write about ethical issues and challenges. That's about it. So in the body of the answer, I will have social media usage and ethical issues. The second part of the body of the answer, social media usage and challenges. The third part of the body of the answer, social media and ethical dilemmas associated with it. And then I can go ahead and write few solutions, right? If I have space, I can write solutions. If I do not have space, your conclusion could include a solution angle. I'll come to that later. Let us talk about some of the issues that exist when you're using your social media. It could be simple ones. For example, when you're using social media, privacy is something that does not exist. I remember watching a movie, I forgot the name of the movie. There they have popularly said privacy is a myth in 21st century, and that's true. Whenever you're using social media, you get this targeted advertisement based on your Google search. Is it not? And you've also read in this popular case, Cambridge Analytica, it was a firm which sourced data from Facebook, and it used this data to create political narratives to help or to influence presidential elections in 2016. And if you remember, it happened between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. So, privacy related issues you can mention. And you can also talk about the misinformation that is being perpetuated by social media these days, right? Social media has become a hub of fake news. Is it not? And this fake news can create divisiveness in the society. Forget society, it can create divisiveness in the family. Case in point, here's your family WhatsApp group. All right, that's the thing. So, misinformation is also an ethical issue associated with this question. Apart from this, you can talk about cyberbullying, online harassment, these digital frauds which are happening. Right, in digital fraud, you have individuals developing a sort of friendship with the users. They are going to use this friendship to build trust, and after they have built sufficient amount of trust, they can create financial hurdles or problems for you as well. Cyberbullying. Now, social media usage has given a sense of anonymity to people. Many people use this anonymity in a responsible way. Some people use anonymity in a dangerous, non constructive manner. They go against the dignity of the users. It might be in terms of gender, it might be in terms of physics, it might be in terms of anything and everything. Cyberbullying is not good. Cyberbullying, it has impact on mental health of users. Getting my point? Online harassment, online stalking. You have heard of all these things. Getting my point? So these are certain ethical issues associated with your social media usage. Apart from that, what are the various challenges that we have when it comes to your social media usage? See, remember, you can write even more issues associated with your social media usage, even more. That's not a problem. Howsoever, you're supposed to write the priority content that comes to your mind within a time span of 7 to 8 minutes. And I'll be honest with you, the reason why I told you this paper is challenging is there are questions like this where you have so much of content. It's not a 10 marker question, rather, it is a 15 mark. And if you want, you can write even an essay on this. You have so much of content. So, here within this time span of 7 to 8 minutes, thinking of priority content and trying to organize it under three headings is what is important. All right. So let us look at the second aspect of this body of the answer, and that is your challenges. So, challenges could be in terms of how to regulate. Because most of the social media companies, even though they have presence in our country, right, they have their headquarters in a different part of the world. These social media companies are becoming even more powerful than elected governments, not just in India, but all across the world. In such kind of a scenario, how do we manage it? These are the challenges that we have. How do we come out with a legal framework to monitor, to regulate social media? How do we come across with ethical framework to monitor and regulate social media? These things we have to keep in mind. Along with that, when you're using social media, what I have observed, people who use too much of social media, they tend to see the outside world also from the prism of social media. Social media and the real world, they're not exactly the same. In social media, your friends list matter. Your likes, subscribers, shares, comments, everything matters. But in the real world, it is different. Many people don't realize this. All right. So it is giving rise to the challenge where a user is not having the necessary confidence or self belief. in their own worth. This is causing problems for them, challenges for them when they go and they interact with people in the outside world. Getting my point? If you want, you can write this as well. That is up to you. So, from a reasonable point of view, we know what issues must be present. We know what are some of the challenges that exist. All right. If I have to add few more things to the challenges, if you look at social media and the kind of algorithms it works on, we have no clarity in terms of this algorithmic way of functioning of social media. Not long ago in United States of America, there was a Senate hearing. And in this Senate hearing, you have members of the Senate quizzing all these major social media companies like Meta, Google, Microsoft, TikTok, and on how their algorithms work, because there can be bias in the way algorithms can be designed, is it not? So, bringing transparency and accountability in terms of social media companies and how their algorithms are designed is also a very crucial challenge that we are learning how to tackle, not just in the country, but in other parts of the world as well. Now, remember, they've also asked about dilemmas. Now, the dilemma is right here, if you look into it, what are the famous dilemmas? You have free will versus manipulation. All right. Now, whenever you're using social media, I just spoke about your algorithmic content just a couple of minutes ago. Now, you feel when you're using social media, you're in control of your thought process, but that is not the case. Your free will is going against the manipulative way of how a social media can work at times. This is a dilemma, is it not? For those who think issues and dilemmas are same, they're not. Issues are different. Issues are in a much more broader context. Issues indicate a compromised situation. When we talk about your dilemmas, they have a very narrow stakeholders, right? Here, let us say I'm using social media. I, along with that social media algorithm, understand one, the free will of mine on one side and the manipulative tactics on the other side. That is the dilemma. All of you are following me. Many people, when they're using social media to be part of a fashion, to be part of a trend, they give up on their free will and they just become part of this viral trends. There are many negative viral trends. For instance, you have a trend called as dusting, which even took lives of certain users who were using the social media like this. So, dilemma is much more narrower. Dilemma indicates a challenging situation. Understand my point? So, dilemma here in this question, it is creating free will versus manipulation. It is creating a dilemma in terms of whether I should follow those traditional values or should I follow this social media values. Traditional values. So, what are these traditional values? In traditional values, we were trying to understand the basics, the philosophy, the spiritualistic foundations of anything, even in terms of how we interact with people. In Kannada, there is a very famous phrase, Desha Suttu Kosha Odu. This was our traditional way of going about in life. But when we talk about the present scenario, many people are preferring to consume their news no longer through newspaper, but rather through social media. And not everything that is there on your social media is correct. You have come across a very simple phrase in English, not all that glitters is gold. Likewise, not all that is there on social media is gold. So we can mention some basic dilemmas like this. Basic dilemmas like what? Free will versus manipulation, privacy versus transparency, freedom versus regulation. These are some points. For example, let us say I am a social media user. Now I have the right to put across my opinion, to put across my thought process. But is it absolute? If it is not absolute, what are the grounds based on which I should regulate it, based on which I should monitor it? These are the things that you're expected to write in this particular question. Now, the dilemma for you is this: sir, how many points should I write under issues? How many points should I write under challenges, under dilemmas? Should I write 555 for all three? If you write 555 for all three, you don't have space. So in that examination hall, even if you've written some three diverse points for ethical issues, three diverse points for your challenges, three diverse points for your dilemmas, more than enough. Don't worry. Getting my point? Please do not go with a preset mind that for any question I have to write minimum 5 points. Because there will be some questions with only one demand, but in this question there are three demands. So you have to be careful. All right. So in the conclusion or in terms of examples for this particular answer, you can mention about data mining that happens, right? You have your social media companies, they use our data. They come out with targeted advertisements. I told you that your social media understands you much better than even your best friends at times. Is it not? So how do you regulate this? How will you prevent the misuse of your personal information? You can mention all these things in your challenges if you want. All of you are following my point. That's the thing. Now, let us say you want to write about one more ethical issue. I have given you some. Let us say you want to write one more. You can write. For example, when you talk about social media, it treats its users as a means or as an end in itself. You know the answer. They treat us as not end, sorry, as a means. Getting the point? You can write more. The reason why I'm giving you some more points at the end is you don't have to stick on to whatever 3, 4, 5 I have given for all these things. You can write more. If you've written something extra in your answer, that is most welcome. So don't worry. So my intro is done, my body is done. Now I have to write a conclusion. Right? Now let us say before writing the conclusion, you have some space to write solutions. So to better regulate social media, if you have any measures that the government has taken, you can mention it. If you have your own suggestions, that also you can mention it. Not long ago, Australia came out with a regulatory measure to prevent young people from using social media. That is good. You can also talk about how we can include social media ethics and education and awareness programs in school curriculum. That is the second thing. You can also talk about various targeted advertisements against the addictive usage of social media as well. So, whatever measures the government has taken, whatever other measures the government can take, you can write it there. And in the conclusion, so how you will write in the conclusion. So Gandhi is someone that your UPSC likes a lot. Good. Gandhi has given some extraordinary thought process which is still relevant even in the present times. Gandhi gave a concept called as seven sins. Now, the social media companies, the commerce of the social media companies, if they conduct their commerce along with morality, we can prevent the ill usage of social media easily. So, how can you write a conclusion based on this idea of Gandhiji? Very simple. Gandhiji's idea of commerce with morality, when adopted, can prevent the various challenges that are existing, various challenges, comma, issues and dilemmas that are existing in the present times with the usage of social media. Keep it simple. All right. Many people, they have this tendency, since this is the first question, they have to write their best answer because it is going to set the tone. Partial truth, howsoever, if you take more time to write an answer for this question, what happens to other question? You will be facing scarcity there. So please don't do it. All right. Any question that you see as part of your section A, 7 to 8 minutes. Within 1.5 hours, section A should be done. And the next 1.5 hours, you should reserve it for your case studies. All right. Yes. Moving on. Let us look into the second question that I've asked. First B. Okay. First B. So constitutional morality is not a natural sentiment but a product of civil education and adherence to the rule of law. Examine the significance of constitutional morality for public servant, highlighting the role in promoting good governance and ensuring accountability in public administration. All of you following my point? Now, this question, when you read it for the very first time, it might seem a little bit challenging. It might seem a little bit difficult, but in reality, that is not the case if you have a thorough understanding of PYQ. If you look at your PYQ, they have asked questions on constitutional morality. As far as I remember, in last couple of years, they had given a question, write short notes on, and below that there were five terminologies they had asked. One of the terminologies was constitutional morality. And again in the PYQ, they have also asked one more question. What is this question? It was how public service values promote good governance. A question similar to this. I don't remember the exact words, but the spirit is the same. All of you are following me. And they've asked some indirect questions as well. For example, without firmly entrenched ethics, no laws, no rules, and regulations can help in the smooth functioning of a country. The question was something similar to this. All of you are following me. Now, why do I do this exercise? Every time I read a new question in a recent paper, I do this exercise to understand based on what PYQ themes the questions have been asked. The moment I understand that, it makes my life that much easier in terms of having an introduction ready, knowing what the structure should be in the body of the answer, and knowing what possible conclusion I can write here. Getting my point? So that is why many of the people that you meet, they advise you to know the PYQs as if it is the tip of the tongue type of exercise for you. Getting my point? So please go through the PYQs, understand the themes, understand the sub themes, write answers for them. What kind of value addition you should do for the same themes in case if they ask, always do that. And one more thing. In the first question I discussed, I told you about the contextual things. If you look at the present times, be it your ED, Enforcement Directorate, or your CBI, or your Election Commission of India, are they showcasing constitutional morality in terms of performing their duties, in terms of upholding rule of law, in terms of ensuring good governance? If you're right, if you have that in mind, that also will help you either in your introduction or it might give you certain examples in the body of the answer. I hope you're understanding. All right. Now let us say I have to talk about the introduction here. How will I proceed? Constitutional morality is not a natural sentiment, but a product of civil education and adherence to the rule of law. You can just define what is constitutional morality here. What is constitutional morality? It is simple. Adherence to the core values of the Constitution, hyphen, equality, liberty, fraternity, justice. You can write these things. All right. Now, constitutional values can be taught. However, it has to be lived, it has to be experienced. That is when you will accumulate the necessary wisdom as well. Is it not? So, how did I come about with the second part of the introduction? Here in your UPSC paper, there was an essay topic. Truth is not taught but lived. Using that particular PYQ, I tried to apply it over here. Why did I apply it here? Because look at the question. They have said it is not a natural sentiment, it is cultivated. All right. So when something has to be cultivated, it has to be thought, it has to be lived, is it not? So keeping that in mind, I came out with the second part of the introduction. So how will I write the introduction? Let me simplify. Constitutional morality is adherence to constitutional values like equality, liberty, fraternity, and justice. It is not only learned, but it is lived day in and day out through our experiences and interactions in the public sphere. This much is enough, my dear friends. Now, if you observe the question, they've given you one more interesting keyword. The keyword is good governance. You already would have learned in your governance classes as to what is good governance. For example, when you talk about good governance, is ensuring that there is rule of law, not just in letter but also in spirit. It is also ensuring that there is transparency in the governance. It is also ensuring that there is responsiveness, participation, efficiency, effectiveness, like this. This is good governance. You know that your World Bank, your UNDP, your OECD, there are multiple organizations who have spoken about good governance. If you look at your Lal Bahadur Shastri, even in his prime ministership tenure, he had also spoken about good governance. Our prime minister on a regular basis also talks about good governance. Getting my point? So when constitutional morality comes into picture, good governance is a natural outcome of it. When constitutional morality is not there, good governance will be just a dream and not a reality. That is what this question is trying to test you on. All of you are following my point. It is what it is trying to test you on. Right. Now you come back. Along with this good governance, if you look into it, they've also asked what is accountability. Here they have used this term accountability. Now, what is accountability? You know the meaning of this term. It is the ability to be answerable to one's actions and omissions. Understand my point? It is the ability to take responsibility for one's acts of omission and commission, and also to face the consequences of your actions. That is what is accountability. Getting my point? So here they have also used that term. Examine the significance of constitutional morality for public servant, highlighting the role in promoting good governance and ensuring accountability in public administration. So in the body of the answer, when constitutional morality exists, you have already defined what is constitutional morality. So when constitutional morality exists, right? So how will it promote good governance, rule of law? How will it promote rule of law? You're going to talk about that. How is it going to promote responsiveness? You're going to talk about that. How is it going to promote efficiency and effectiveness? You're going to talk about that. The second part, when you have constitutional morality, how is it going to promote accountability in public administration? That you can talk about. All right. So let's discuss these two structures in the body of the answer. For instance, constitutional morality and your good governance. Let us say there is a public servant who considers that it is his duty to uphold justice. So, when a public servant considers that it is his duty to uphold justice, what happens at the end of the day? You see compassion for vulnerable sections becoming a reality. You see social justice becoming a reality. Is it not? Like this, you can write if you want. Constitutional morality. Now, imagine you are using principles of equality as a public servant throughout your service as a public servant. So when you do this, will you be partial or impartial? You will be impartial. Is it not? That is also good. Because how am I generating these points? Compassion for vulnerable section is a reference that is there in your ethics syllabus. Impartiality is also a reference that is there in your aptitude and foundational values. Understand the point? You also have non-partisanship. Someone who is guided by constitutional morality, they will be non-partisan. Their faith, their allegiance will be to protecting, preserving, and defending the Constitution of India in any circumstances. Is it not promoting trustworthiness? When people showcase constitutional morality, common people like you and me, we will trust the democratic institutions. We will trust our public servants in a much better manner. When I, as a common man, trust anyone, let us say a public servant, it becomes that much easier for a public servant to use my cooperation in making any program a successful mission. Is it not? That is the thing. You have heard of individuals like Lal Bahadur Shastri, one of the greatest prime minister that the country has ever seen. When he was railway minister and when he was unable to stop the railway accidents, what did Lal Bahadur Shastri do? He resigned. He took personal accountability. When constitutional morality is there, people, they will protect, preserve, and defend the constitution, not just in the letter, but in the spirit as well. That is what you can write. When a public servant is guided by constitutional morality, whatever funds we have given to them, they will utilize the funds in an effective and efficient manner. They will not be going forward for things such as corruption. Don't you guys agree with me? Yes. When you have constitutional morality, how will it help you? When you have constitutional morality, you will be guided by principles that will help you to establish ethical governance in the society, in the country. That argument also you can make. Getting my point? So here the challenge for you is very simple, knowing what is constitutional morality and simplifying it. After you have simplified it, knowing what good governance is and knowing what are the attributes of good governance. Next, You have to know what is accountability and what are certain few attributes of accountability. If you know these three things, writing an answer in the body of the question is easy. You'll get the arguments in a very simple way. We have discussed that impartiality, non-partisanship, compassion for vulnerable sections, right? Promoting ethical governance, promoting a system of responsibility for one's public duties and actions, things like this you can write. Along with this, you are supposed to write certain examples as well. Arguments and examples must be there in an ethics answer. Some of the times I see my students, some students of mine, who give a lot many examples but not arguments. My dear friends, in an ethics answer, both arguments as well as examples should be balanced. Sir, if I'm writing 5 arguments, should I mention 5 examples? Not necessarily. Practically, it is not possible. So if you're writing some 5 arguments and if you have written 3 examples for these three of the arguments, it is fine. Ideally, push for 5 arguments, 5 example, ideally. In case if it is not possible for certain arguments, it is okay. You can let it go. That's not a problem. All of you are following my point. Now, if a person has constitutional morality, they will proactively disclose information necessary for any common man like you and me to judge, to measure the effectiveness and efficiency of any government department and all its policies and actions. Is it not? Right to information is a very important concept in your probity chapter. So a person who has constitutional morality will proactively disclose information. In right to information, there is a section which calls for proactive disclosure from public departments, but many public departments don't do it. But a person who has constitutional morality will share information proactively, which can increase the quantum of ethical governance in the country. Like this, if you want, you can write. See, the question is quite vast. The number of points that you get in your head is even more vast. That is why I told you this paper was challenging, because there are so many things to write. Prioritizing what you have to write and organizing this content, as far as I am concerned, is the challenge. All right. I don't see that many bouncers or dusras in this question paper as such, but nevertheless, the questions are simple, but the content is so vast. Concising it is where the challenge lies, my dear friends. All of you are following my point. Now, once you have written the body of the answer in a reasonable way like this, how should you go about and write the conclusion? Very simple. Constitutional morality is not a natural sentiment but a product of civil education and adherence to the rule of law. So, how can we teach this? Is there any program that we have taken in the last couple of years to ensure constitutional morality in people? You can talk about it. So, in the last question paper, as far as I remember, in 2024, there was this mission called as Mission Karma Yogi. We can talk about it. We are bringing changes in the training of public servants in the last couple of years as well. This could also be mentioned. Getting my point? Now, apart from this, if you want to talk about certain extra measures to ensure public servants they adopt constitutional morality, that also you can write. You can recognize, reward, all right, create awareness on those public servants who have used constitutional morality in their jobs. This can also help in making more and more public servants become more oriented towards constitutional morality. On similar lines, like Mission Karma Yogi and change in ethical training of public servants, we can also institute a character award that recognizes and rewards public servants with higher standards of constitutional morality. This is also reasonable. Getting my point? Good. That was your first question, right? One of the greatest challenges in ethics is Section A is not just 6 questions, Section A is 13 questions. Is it not? Now, let us move on to the second question. The second question is Karl von Clausewitz once said, war is a diplomacy by other means. Critically analyze the above statement in the present context of contemporary geopolitical conflict. Every day, you're reading about Russia, Ukraine. Every day, You're reading about Israel Palestine. Not long ago, we were reading about India Pakistan as well, right? You had a similar situation in Cambodia as well, as far as I remember. Is it not? So you have Cambodia and Thailand as well. It was in the news. So why I'm trying to link each and every question with what is happening in and around us is because not just in paper 4, be it in paper 1, 2 or 3, current affairs, the issues that are there in news is very important. And my dear friends, I'm not going to say that I'm the best faculty for the subjects that I'm teaching. I'm also learning just like you. I think I'm reasonably good, however. Howsoever, with utmost sincerity and humility, I have a suggestion to some of my students who are listening. When you're preparing for this examination, please develop the habit of reading newspaper. It is very important. Don't depend on monthly magazines, right? Or your concise materials for current affairs. You can read it, I'm not denying it. But your primary mode of current affairs knowledge should always be newspaper. Usually in my life, even to this day, the first productive thing that I do on a day-to-day basis is read newspapers, and after that proceed forward. And today, when I was reading Indian Express, I came across an article, and when I said today I'm recording this video on 25th August 2025. All right. So today in your Indian Express Delhi edition, there is a very beautiful editorial article on social media, on artificial intelligence, and how when we use it in a very addictive sort of a manner, it can make us slaves of these social media and these artificial intelligence technologies. So, as and when you read more and more newspapers, as and when you get exposed to different opinions, the way you think also improves. All right. So, my humble request, it's not a demand, my humble request to all my students who are listening as of now, develop the habit of reading newspapers. Sir, I heard that someone did not read newspaper in their journey. Yes, there will be outliers like that. I'm not denying it. But you and I, we are common people. We are average people. We are not outliers. So please do read newspapers. Don't avoid it. So how can you write this an answer for this question? Remember here, they've given in the context of geopolitical conflict. And here you also know war is not always violence these days. War is also trade tariff. If you ask your Donald Trump, he will be able to talk a few things about it. Is it not? Now, I told you the contextual things. What is the second thing that I do? I try to connect whatever is there in front of me with something that I have already learned in your PYQs. For example, there is a very beautiful question with regards to morality of actions. This is the PYQ question. With regards to morality of action, one view is that means is of paramount importance, and another view is that ends justify the means. What is your perception in this regard? Justify. This is a PYQ question. If you look at this one, war is a diplomacy by other means. Getting my point? So, in which group does it fall? Is it means is of paramount importance, or is it ends justify the means? It falls in the second group, that is, ends justify the means. Getting my point? Now, keeping this PYQ question in mind, keeping this ethical concept in mind, you can write an introduction. The above given statement is a reflection of judging the morality of actions based on the maxim of ends justify the means. Within the bracket, you can write consequentialist approach. All of you are following my point. Now, here they have given you critically analyze. So, whenever they have given you critically analyze, you can analyze this given question based on various theories that you have learned. For example, let us say I have taken theories such as deontological theories. What is diplomacy by other means? From a deontological point of view, if we have not taken into consideration other methodologies that existed and we have directly gone to war, deontological ethics might not completely approve of that statement. And in deontological ethics, one of the essential duty that we have is towards adhering to principles, adhering to non-violence. War is nothing but diplomacy by other means is violating this deontological emphasis. So you can bring that. Other than that, you can also view this war is nothing but diplomacy by other means through consequentialist approach. In consequentialist approach, what is the thing? What is the rule that we have? The greatest happiness of the greatest number. If war is going to ensure the greatest happiness of the greatest number, go ahead and do it. That's not a problem. Getting my point? You have seen when we talk about your America during World War II, Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings that were conducted in Japan, right? These two bombs were used to ensure that Japan surrenders, comes to the negotiating table. So over there, Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings, they were a means to bring people to the table. Getting my point? Then you have your trade tariffs which are being implemented by your Donald Trump. Look at that. Now America is justifying that these trade tariffs is what made Russia come to the negotiating table and meet Donald Trump not long ago in USA, in Alaska, in the state of Alaska, if you remember. That is what your USA is saying. But the thing is this here, they were the ones who told us buy oil from Russia to ensure there is stability in energy prices. When we went ahead and did that, now they want a quick solution for it. They are sacrificing India and the strategic partnership they have with India. War is nothing but diplomacy by other means. There is an ethical angle where some countries, where some people might be treated as a means and not as an end. Is it not? It can create pain, it can create suffering. That is what many people are facing because of tariffs imposed by Donald Trump, not just on India, but other countries as well. Is it not? And this goes against virtue ethics. With great power comes great responsibility, and to ensure that you fulfill this great responsibility, you have to know that you should be guided by good virtue ethics. If someone is going for this war as nothing but another way of diplomacy with utter disregard for virtue ethics, then that statement does not make much of a ethical sense. I hope you're understanding what I'm trying to say. So here I'm critically analyzing it. I'm giving certain theories which might justify this statement. I'm giving certain theories which is not. Let us say I am someone who believes that war is nothing but diplomacy by other means. It is so subjective. Now, to bring Russia to the negotiating table, USA imposed trade tariffs on India, and they're justifying it. Not long ago, if you look at US's actions with Iran, they dropped bombs on some of the alleged nuclear sites as well, where enrichment was happening allegedly. These nuclear sites, they had come under the regulation of IAEA. Iran was a signatory to that. Iran had also opened its nuclear sites for its inspection. What kind of message is USA trying to send over here? Is it trying to say that whatever rules and regulations are there, they apply to you, but not to us? What is the point of adhering to any global rule and regulations if they can take whimsical actions like they did with Iran? Am I making my point clear? We need to be careful. If you look at Israel's actions in the ongoing Palestine, yes, Israel had every right to go against Hamas because of the October attack that was perpetuated by Hamas on innocent Israeli citizens. I'm not going to deny that. Howsoever, the kind of war which is being imposed by Israel on Palestine as of now, it is not humane. Every day, be it your Hindu newspaper or your Indian Express, you're seeing the photos of innocent Israeli citizens, Palestine citizens facing hunger. You're also seeing innocent Israeli citizens being held hostages. Is war the right solution as of now here to find answers to this? That is a question that we need to answer. Unfortunately, that is not something that people are asking these days. Is it not? When we talk about Russia, Ukraine, Russia kept saying to NATO and many of its allies, stop the expansion of NATO. There is no purpose, there is no necessity for NATO. But what did the NATO did? It kept on expanding, it kept on expanding, and it wanted Ukraine to be member, and on its part, even Ukraine wanted it. When all exhaustive measures were taken by Russia to prevent NATO's expansion, when they felt that there was no other option, they went for war. Is it right or wrong? War, as far as I'm concerned, is not right. I'm someone who believes in non-violence, but in extraordinary situations, war might become a necessity. When you take into account India Pakistan, the cowardly attack which was perpetuated by Pakistani terrorists in your Pahalgam incident caused pain to many people, not just in India, but all across the world. When innocent people die because of these cowardly attacks, humanity suffers. Now, for so many years, for so many decades, we have been calling out Pakistan for its state sponsored terrorism support. We have been calling out the whole world about their duplicity when it comes to Pakistani's actions and how the other countries in the world have failed to reign in Pakistan. It was in the aftermath of Pahalgam incident that India went for certain preemptive strikes or even to send a message that next time you even think of that this incident might happen, there will be a strong answer to that. We had conducted all diplomatic efforts. We had conveyed to Pakistan through various dossier and so many things, surgical strikes included. But nevertheless, Pakistan did not change its stance. But in the aftermath of Pahalgam, what actions we have taken as part of Operation Sindoor does deserve credit. We have conveyed a message to Pakistan. The place where it is planned, that is the place where we will target. And look at the kind of virtuous messaging that we have showcased as well. We targeted those people who are responsible for the planning. We targeted terrorist camps. We did not target defense infrastructure, neither did we target civilian infrastructure, the innocent. Here, we were pushed into a corner where we had to take the decision, where we had to send a strong message, a strong answer to Pakistan to what it did. And not just that, we have called out Pakistan's bluff of the usage of nuclear weapons as well. They are always holding these nuclear weapons and they were threatening of its usage. We called out their bluff. Apart from that, when it comes to the sharing of Indus river water, we have suspended it until and unless Pakistan resolves the issue of state-sponsored terrorism from its country. Getting my point? War is diplomacy by other means. Do not completely criticize it. Sometimes war becomes a necessity when you have exhausted all other diplomatic measures. Sometimes it becomes a necessity to ensure that the morally deaf people hear what you're trying to send, the message that you're trying to send across in a loud manner, provided that message is based on certain deontological ethics framework, certain virtue ethics framework, certain just war theory framework. For those who know what is just war theory, it is a framework which will help you to say when you have to go to war, how you have to sustain war. In the just war framework, there is a distinction that we have to make between combatants and non-combatants. India kept all these things in mind when it went ahead with its Operation Sindhu. Is it not? It's a beautiful question. But then again, it has so much of content to write. Understand my point? So here I want you to talk about Russia, Ukraine. Go ahead, talk about it, in which place it falls. On the good side of it or on the negative side of it, you can take a call. As far as I am concerned, there have been good number of innocent civilians killed ever since Russia Ukraine war happened. Just today in the morning, I was reading about an article where Ukraine apparently targeted a nuclear site. So any fallout because of this nuclear radiation can not only impact the local people over there, but it can also have a worldwide impact as well. You have to keep in your mind your Israel-Palestine issue. Innocent people on both sides of the border are being affected in negative way. War cannot be a final solution if war is not complemented with the right type of ethics. Then you have the trade war, which is being imposed unilaterally by America without any without any regard to the humanity, to the global welfare. You can also bring that particular aspect into the picture. You can talk about this cyber warfare that some countries are doing these days. Is it not? Along with it, you can also bring India, Pakistan, and you can talk about how India showcased the utmost moral restraint when it was pushed into a corner, when all other diplomatic efforts were exhausted. That is when we took this decision. That is what you can use all these arguments, you can use all these examples in your answer. I hope you got it. Usually in my classes, when I take up ethics and international relations, just to explain this concept, I take 3 hours. But here, since it is just a discussion video, we can't go into the detail of it. Just that is why I've given you the bare minimum. All right. Now your introduction is done. Your body of the answer, what should be there in terms of arguments, what theories must be written, right? What examples must be written. We have discussed that. What is conclusion here? That is what we have to worry about. All right. What should be the conclusion? Now you can take a stand. You don't have to balance it. I see this trend amongst UPSC aspirants these days where they write balancing answers. No, you take a stand. War is nothing but diplomacy by other means can become a false or subjective ground to continuously perpetuate violence. War should be the last resort, and even here, war should be sustained based on ethical grounds with emphasis on peaceful resolution as the ultimate goal. Like this, you can write if you want. My conclusion was a little bit verbose, meaning it was a little bit longer. You can concise it. All right? Good. Next, moving on to the next question, your second B. Keeping the national security in mind, examine the ethical dilemmas related to controversies over environmental clearance of development projects in ecologically sensitive border areas in the country. All right. So when we look at this question, it is about environmental ethics, you know that. And based on environmental ethics, your UPSC has already asked quite a few questions. One of the simplest question it has asked, what do you understand by environmental ethics? Explain the importance of studying environmental ethics. Discuss at least one environmental issue in the present times. This was one of the PYQs. Along with that, from a contextual point of view, you have been hearing that we have this great Nicobar project that we want to do because of security reasons, but this is coming at the cost of local environmental conservation, tribal justice, things like that. Or if you're following me. So how should you go about writing an introduction for this question? See, I am someone who believes that an individual, an aspirant who has thorough understanding of the syllabus topics, who has simple conceptual clarity, who has done that religious revision and relentless practice, someone who has done that, they can think of introductions on the spot. They don't have to always keep a notes, right? Possible introduction, possible conclusion. You can do that. That's not a problem. But practically speaking, when you go to an examination hall, you might see a question where you cannot quickly think of an introduction and a conclusion based on the notes that you have already prepared for. It happens. Many a times, people, they are involved in collecting notes, more notes and more notes. We have a great faculty over here, Pradeep Sir, who has a very beautiful statement. The statement goes like this: do not become material collectors, but become district collectors. All right. So, my dear friends, someone who has conceptual clarity, who has done religious revision and relentless practice, they can think of introductions and conclusions on the spot. How so, sir? Let us say in this probity chapter, there is a topic called as philosophical basis behind your governance. This is the topic. So, if you have understood that philosophical basis behind any governance, it makes your life a little bit easier. Getting my point? Here, I think you can bring your Gandhi if you want. Need brings, sorry, not need brings greed. Gandhiji very famously said, earth as everything for everyone's need, but not for everyone's greed. You have President Dwight D. Eisenhower. He was president of US at one point in time. So he said, any developmental works, any security works that we do, it should be based on ethical concerns and necessities. That is what he spoke about. You have one more individual, one more thinker who is saying, we do not inherit the earth from our predecessor, but rather we borrow it from our future generation. So we have a duty to ensure we leave behind a world, an ecosystem that the future generation can live happily or at least can have a dignified life there. So three thinkers have told you. So let us say I use the do not inherit the world. All of us have a moral duty to ensure that the world that we have inherited from our predecessor, we live behind this world where the future generation can have a reasonable and dignified life. Hyphen. Projects in eco-sensitive zones creates challenges for this situation. Like this, if you want, you can write. And if you remember your Chanakya very famously said, the duty of the king is to ensure the yoga shema of his citizens. And when I say yoga shema, it does not just include the financial well-being of the citizens, but also the security well-being, is it not? So you can say, in the pursuit of ensuring the yoga shema of all the citizens in the country, hyphen, bold decisions have to be made, which often might come at the cost and compromise of certain duties. That is the thing. This is the practical world we are living in. Am I right? You are supposed to take bold decisions. In lives, there will be dilemmas. In such type of situations, how to find the best possible way out. That is where ethics comes into picture. All right. So let us say you can go with that. Do not inherit. We do not inherit the world from our predecessor, but rather we borrow the world from our future generation. You can go for that. If not, you can go with what Chanakya has spoken about Yoga Shema. I've given you the introduction, so I'm not going to discuss about it in detail. Usually, when I'm taking classes, OGP classes, foundation classes, or even validation courses that I take, I give a list of some 8 to 9 dilemmas that are usually asked by UPSC ever since 2013. It could be in section A or it could be even in section B. Getting my point? So these dilemmas will give you the necessary push to answer these questions. All of you are following me. Now, I won't go into the detail of this 8 to 9 dilemmas. All right. Nevertheless, in specific to this particular question, what are the dilemmas we are facing here? We are facing the dilemma of security versus sustainability. Security of country on one side, sustainability of the environmental ecosystem on the other side. Understand my point? Yes. Another thing, what is the other dilemma that we are facing? We have the short-term necessity versus long-term consequences. The short-term necessity could be the volatile security situation that the country might be facing. And what is the second part of it? The second part of it happens to be your long-term consequences. Because of this work that we are doing in the eco-sensitive zone, it can have long-term consequence. Maybe certain species will become critically endangered or extinct, or it might give rise to certain drinking water problems, or it might give rise to, let us say, certain radicalization. Things like this can happen, long-term consequences. So we have to be very careful of that particular aspect as well. Other than that, we also have development and rights of the nature or communities who might be inhabiting that area, inhabiting that eco-sensitive zone. And you have seen Prior to our independence, how tribals were treated by Britishers. And post independence, we have taken a lot many measures to ensure that kind of tribal injustice we saw during Britishers period does not carry forward to the present times. Howsoever, in the name of development projects, in the name of ecological conservation in terms of national park or wildlife sanctuaries, there is displacement of tribals. Getting my point? So when we talk about these security project, yes, in terms of development, which is it might be very much required, but in terms of the rights of that nature, the plants, the animals who are inhabiting that particular place, or in terms of communities who are using it, what to do here? That is the question, is it not? So like this, you can mention few more. For example, you have national interest versus global commitments. India could be part of certain, let us say, agreement related to Paris climate change or similar such agreements. On one side, you have global commitments, and on the other side, you have national interest where you have to take up that security work in that eco sensitive zone because it is very important for the security of the country. So, this could also be dilemma how to balance your national interest with global commitments. If you see what India has done with regards to its Paris climate change agreement, we have done reasonably well compared to some countries, including countries like America. So, our leadership in the domain of climate change can be questioned if we take up such measures in a haphazard manner. That is what I'm saying. All right. So, apart from that, you can also talk about utilitarian versus deontological ethic. What does utilitarian talk about? It talks about the greatest happiness of the greatest number. Then you also have deontological ethics here, where we have duty towards the local community, towards the local nature as well. Getting my point? So the greatest happiness of the greatest number is coming still at the cost and compromise of some pain that few people are facing. So, what you're going to do, we are going to talk about these dilemmas that I have highlighted in the past couple of minutes. For example, security versus sustainability, development versus rights of nature versus communities, short term necessity versus long term consequences, national interest versus global commitments, utilitarian versus deontological ethics. You're going to talk about these dilemmas, you're going to elaborate upon them, and if you want, in reasonable places, you can give examples as well. For example, Great Nicobar project. Getting my point? So you can mention that. That's not a problem at all. Now, the introduction is done. All right. The body of the answer is also done. All of you following me? So, apart from this, apart from mentioning the dilemmas, should we mention any other thing in your body of the answer? Yes, you can mention in situations like this what should be the ethical framework that should guide us. So this is where you can talk about applied ethics that you study in your first chapter. So when we talk about environmental ethics, right, more often than not it should be ecocentric, but in extraordinary exceptional circumstances, fine, there might be some compromise. What are the other values that we have to keep in mind in your environmental ethics? We have to ensure that the pain and suffering is minimized to the greatest extent. We have to ensure that the environment is treated as an end in itself and not as a means. We have to ensure that the values with regards to environmental ethics are prompted by values like love, care, and compassion. You can mention these things in the second part of the body of the answer. To resolve such dilemmas, one should showcase great aptitude, innovation, and ethical sensibilities, which might include. All right. So, below that, first point, what are the aptitude skills you need to have? If there is any way that you can ensure the security of the country without compromising on the environmental issues, that you can explore. What is the innovation that you can use? If there is any technology which can minimize the pain and suffering caused to environmental well-being, that also you can mention. What is the ethical framework that you have to keep in mind? Environmental ethics, right? It should be based on beneficence towards environmental conservation. Whatever we do, we should be fair. Whatever measures we are taking, there should be public consensus. So these things you can mention. Sir, how are you generating the structure? How are you generating the points? It is very simple. I've kept all your PYQs in mind. Whenever they have asked a question on dilemma, they have asked how you will resolve the dilemma. They have also asked how aptitude and innovation help you to resolve the dilemma. Keeping this PYQs in mind, I'm giving myself an orientation towards writing an answer for this question. And again, my dear friends, I can go ahead and talk about this question in detail as if it is an essay question. As if it is an essay question. Howsoever, this is a 10 marker question. So you need to be concise and you need to write an answer for this within 7 to 8 minutes. So prioritize your content. And the second thing is organize or structure that content in the reasonable way and then you move forward. All of you following me? Conclusion. So here in the conclusion, UPSC likes this term called as wisdom. All right. We need to showcase wisdom that resonates with highest standards of constitutional values and moral philosophies in navigating such practical situations. If you just write this 2 to 3 line conclusion, that is also enough. If you go and look at 2022, there was a question on wisdom. If you look at 2024, there was a question on wisdom in an indirect way. If you look at 2019 question paper, there was one more essay topic on wisdom itself. Getting my point? So I'm keeping this PYQs in mind so that I can generate introduction and conclusion on the spot when it is required. What I'm doing is simple enough. Howsoever, it comes with a lot of conceptual clarity, religious revision, and relentless practice. Always keep that in mind. Now, let us look into the third question. I find this third question to be very interesting. And I told you that this paper is challenging. The reason being, if you look at the past PYQs, there were certain dedicated questions towards emotional intelligence. Over here, you do not find a dedicated question towards emotional intelligence. Howsoever, you have indirectly questions related to that. Getting my point? And if you look at some of the quotations, it might have taken some aspirants a little bit of time to find or to try to design an answer for this. So let us look at the first question. Before I look into the first question, look at the proper question, the main question here. Given below are 3 quotations of great thinkers. If you look into your syllabus, you have this syllabus topic, right? Human values, lessons and teachings from the lives of great leaders, reformers and administrators. Based on this, you have this quotation-based question, which is usually asked. So given below are 3 quotations of great thinkers. What do each of these quotations convey to you in the present context? So you have to be very careful when you're answering quotation-based questions. If they're asking you, what do you understand by each of the quote, that is a different answer. If they're asking, what do you understand by each of the quotations in the present context, what is happening in and around us, you must remember. And here again, I'm going to deviate a little bit and I'm going to give you my 2 cents on what I think is important based on whatever I've observed as a teacher in the last couple of years. There is this trend of students going to foundational courses. There is a trend of students going to value addition courses. Not wrong in itself. It is good. If you're doing it, you have my respect. If you do not do it, still you have my respect. Howsoever, my dear friends, whatever is done in the foundation course, whatever is done in your value addition courses, or what self-study you have done, please keep in mind, it will only have a meaning, it will only have a value when you start practicing it by applying to what is happening in and around you. If you're just going through ethics as an academic exercise, or for that matter, any other subject, you will not be able to score the best possible marks in your GS papers. All right, good enough. Now, let's come back to the first quotation. This is the quotation that made people feel as if this was this 2021 essay topic. Do you remember that? Your perception of me is a reflection of you. My reaction to you is an awareness of me. Many people had started making memes out of it. Nityananda memes. All of you are following me. This quotation, if you look into the first one, it is quite interesting. Those who in trouble, untroubled are, comma, will trouble itself. Tiruvalluvar. Now, this poet, this reformer from Tamil Nadu, he is someone that UPSC likes quite a lot. Even in PYQs, there was a question asked from this reformer's point of view. For example, Tiruvallavar in his work Tirukural, right, he said, falsehood can take the place of right or truth. I don't remember the exact words. So I'm using my own words here and there. Falsehood can take the place of unblemished common, sorry, falsehood can take the place of truth if it results in unblemished common good. This was one of the question that was asked in your past PYQs. Your UPSC likes him a lot. Next time around, there might be a dedicated question where they ask you, what are the teachings of Tiruvallavar and how are these teachings important in the present times? They can ask you such a question. So be ready for it in case if they do. Now, usually when I'm handling my OJP classes or even my value addition courses at Insights, I teach about an individual called as Captain Manoj Pandey. He was someone who was awarded Paramveer Chakra during 1999 Kargil War. And in this war, Captain Manoj Pandey, he had kept a diary. Two of the quotes in his diary, they are very close to me. One quote is, some goals are so worthy, it is even glorious to fail. Many people, because of fear of failure, they don't try hard enough. They give up on it. Captain Manoj Pandey, when he sacrificed his life for the country, he was still a young individual. All right. In the same diary, he also writes, if death strikes me before I prove my mettle, I swear to God, I will kill death. Such beautiful thought process, such courageous thought process, such resilience in the face of adversity. Very few people can showcase that in life. Very few people. So here what I'm trying to suggest to you, no matter where you have attended any courses, all of the faculties are great. All of them would have taught you some or the other individual with that mindset. All right. They might have taught you some or the other code which is similar to this. Whenever you read any PYQ, try to make comparisons with, whenever you read any question in a question paper, try to compare it with past PYQs. Try to compare it with what kind of thought process has been discussed in your classes, what kind of notes you have made. Things become easier. And I'm someone who likes sports. I like watching basketball. I don't do it usually these days, but nevertheless, when I was growing up, I used to watch basketball. And you had this player. Unfortunately, he passed away not long ago. The name of the player is Kobe Bryant. Now, he was very famous for this mentality called as Mamba mentality, where, as per this mentality, you're supposed to push forward no matter what kind of challenges are there. When I look into this code, these are the things that come to my mind. These are the individuals that come to my mind. Those who in trouble, untroubled are. Even in the face of adversity, do not lose that sense of calmness. Have that sense of resilience. All of you are following me? Do not lose that sense of calmness. Very important. When you are when you are not troubled by this trouble, trouble itself will get troubled. That is what he is saying. In a very simple way, when there is a tough situation, the tough men get going. Understand my point? When the situation gets tough, the tough gets going. This is an English phrase that you have. All of you are following my point. Likewise, those who in trouble, untroubled are. No matter what adversity, what challenges exist, a person who can remain calm, who can retain that sense of resilience and positive self-belief, can overcome those challenges in a successful way. This is the gist of this quotation. You can write this gist in your introduction. More than enough. More than enough. So whenever you're writing quotations, many people, they paraphrase what the person has said. Now, paraphrasing, I'm not going to say that it is wrong. It is good, but it is not best. So my advice to you, when you look at these quotations, understand what is the meaning behind it, the primary message behind it, and capture that primary message in the introduction. Why did I feel that the paper was challenging? Because they were giving so much of content, then they were asking you to concise that content for 10 marker. Another possible reason is when you look at questions like this, those who in trouble untroubled are will trouble itself. It will demand some extra seconds or maybe minutes for some people to figure out an answer for this. That is why. Now, coming to the body of the answer, introduction I've already done. In the body of the answer, how am I going to write an answer for this? Very simple. What are the functions of attitude you would have learned? Understand my point? What are the functions of attitude? Those who in trouble are untroubled are. Oh, let us do one thing. Let us not talk about attitudes here because there is a quotation that I see in front of me, right, which is about attitudes in the next part. So let me not talk about it. Let me focus on the first question itself. Those who in trouble, untroubled are, will trouble itself. So let us say in the body of the answer, I will write the importance of this quote for an individual. Getting my point? Those who remain calm even in adverse situations, they can deal with any situation in a confident manner. They can think of innovative solutions. They can ensure that there is no emotional hijacking. Many people, just by seeing fear, they're not facing fear. Just by seeing a glimpse of fear, they tend to get emotionally overwhelmed. When they tend to get emotionally overwhelmed in your mind, your emotions take over your thought process. When your emotions take over your thought process, that is when psychologists call it as emotional hijacking. When emotional hijacking happens, you can't think rationally. Getting my point? In the face of adversity, remain calm so that you can think of innovative solutions, certain visionary, strategy, critical thinking. You can write like this. In the face of adversity, in the face of trouble, remain untroubled because what you are doing as of now, remaining untroubled, remaining calm, can inspire similar situations amongst people in and around you. Many of you who are watching this video might be the eldest kid. I'm not saying that the middle kid or the youngest kid are not important, but eldest kid get exposed to responsibilities in a much quicker and sooner manner. It is not true in all cases. I'm just saying, generally speaking. So imagine the eldest kid is exposed to situations where there are a lot of troubles that can derail the growth of the family. How the eldest kid, it might be a son or a daughter, it doesn't matter. The eldest kid must deal with those troubles in a calm manner because what you do, it inspires others, it motivates others. If you are positive, it will ensure the same positivity. If you're negative, it will ensure the same negativity in others. MS Dhoni, one of the most celebrated captains all across the world in the history of cricket, he spoke about, or forget him speaking, look at his actions. He was famously called as what? Captain Cool. Does it mean that he did not face any troubling situations? He faced, right? But he dealt with those troubling situations more often than not in an untroubling manner. Getting my point? Magnus Carlsen, he's considered as a goat, one of the goat, if not the goat. So here, when he's playing chess matches, there are situations where he will be losing. And nevertheless, this fellow does not resign. He will be pushing forward. He will push forward to such an extent that the opponent makes a mistake. The troubling itself. Getting my point? So here, what I'm trying to convey to you is very simple. When you have this sense of calmness, you can think clearly. That is one thing. When you have this sense of calmness, you are going to prevent emotional hijacking. When you have that sense of calmness, whatever adverse situations you have, you can create opportunities from them, and you can also learn from it. Getting my point? So when you have this sense of calmness, you can inspire and motivate others to deal with a troubling situation in an untroubling manner. Is it not? That is the thing. All of you are following me. So you can mention these important points as to why we need to have such kind of attitude, such kind of mentality, Mamba mentality. All of you are following me. And you can mention some of the examples that I've discussed with you. All of you are following me. It could be your Kobe Bryant, it could be your MS Dhoni, it could be some of the administrators such as Kiran Bedi, Sagayam, Officers like that as well. Maybe reformers like Rajaram Mohan Roy, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. It is up to you. After mentioning the importance, you can talk about in the body of the answer, or if you do not have space, maybe in the conclusion of the answer, what you suggest to develop such kind of mentality, such type of attitude that you can write. Those who in trouble, untroubled are, will trouble itself. You have to develop the necessary mindfulness. You have to develop the necessary emotional intelligence so that you're untroubled by any troubling situation. Keeping this idea in mind, you can design a solution framework. Okay. And using the same idea in mind, if you want, you can give a conclusion. Those who in trouble, untroubled are, will trouble itself. Listen to me carefully. Let us say in the body of the answer, you have written about the solutions, mindfulness, emotional intelligence, all the good habits, hobbies, and all these things you have written there. In the conclusion, what will you write? Let us write something different. Let us not continue the solution here as well. Those who in trouble, untroubled are, will trouble itself. In life, embracing pain and suffering and all adversity is a golden opportunity to improve our personality. Hyphen, realizing this or internalizing this trait will determine the quantum of our success in life. If you want, you can write something like that as well. All of you are following me. Next, let's move on to the other question. All right. The greatest discovery of my generation is that a human being can alter his life by altering his attitude. Again, my dear friends, it is somewhat similar to the PYQ. There was a PYQ which was asked. This PYQ was given by Zig Ziglar. Zig Ziglar very famously said, it is the attitude of an individual that determines the altitude to which an individual can fly. So almost every other year, either directly or indirectly, there will be a question on attitude. This is one such question. Getting my point? So the greatest discovery of my generation is that a human being can alter his life by altering his attitude. Here the introduction is very simple. What is the introduction? We have the free will. We have the choice to change ourselves for the better by making small changes in attitude. That's about it. All right. This could be your introduction because that is the gist of that introduction. Am I right? In the body of the answer, the greatest discovery of my generation is that a human being can alter his life by altering his attitude. Look at this topic of attitude. One of the concepts under it is functions of attitude. So, in functions of attitude, as per psychologists, if you have a good attitude, a positive, a strong attitude, the kind of values that you will develop, value expressive function, instrumental function, right? Ego defensive function. So you can bring that concept in this particular quotation. All of you are following me? Instrumental function. If you have a great, strong attitude, you can use that as an instrument to achieve whatever goals and challenges you want to overcome in your life. Ego defensive function. You are living in a world where each and every day you might come across criticism. Some of the criticism might be constructive, but most might not be so. If you allow this criticism to poke a hole in your ego, the ego will shatter, is it not? And this can have its own repercussions. So, when you have a strong attitude, you can defend, you can safeguard your ego. And please remember, ego is not necessarily a negative concept, it has certain positive connotations as well. Getting the point? So, in functions of attitude, you come across ego defensive, you come across instrumental, you come across your value expressive. Attitudes gives you the necessary push, the motivation to showcase the values that you have in your mind. More often than not, when I'm teaching my students, I ask them questions in the class, simple questions. Very few of the students raise their hand and then answer me. Even though most of the students might be aware of the answer, they're not doing it. Maybe they do not have that strong attitude, or maybe as a teacher, I need to work and infuse that even stronger sense of attitude in them. Sometimes I succeed, most of the times I fail. That is when I tell to my students, if I am failing as a teacher, life is the best teacher which is going to teach you. All right. Please learn as much as you should within the confines of the classroom so that when you go into the outside world, you do not suffer so much. Some suffering will be there, but nevertheless, let us minimize it as much as possible. So bring that functions of attitude concept in this quotation and you write, in the present context, when I have strong attitudes, how it helps me to express my values, how I can use it as an instrument to achieve my dreams, how I can use it to defend my ego, how I can use my attitudes to accumulate more knowledge. Getting my point? Daniel Katz and Brewster Smith, these are two psychologists associated with functions of attitudes. They have told attitudes have four functions: knowledge, instrumental, value expressive, all right, ego defensive. I have just explained to you in a very reasonable minimum way and have given you arguments as well as examples associated with it. All of you are following me. And who are the people who have changed their life by altering their attitude? Many people, right? Usually in essay, some of my students write about this lady called as Arunima Sinha. She had met with an accident. Because of this accident, she had lost a leg. She had become pessimistic, but she altered her attitude. She used her situation as a push, as a motivation to get better. Eventually, she got so better that she started to scale mountains, including your Mount Everest as well. Getting my point? There are multiple people like that. You have your Nelson Mandela. He was put in jail for so many years. His attitude, it pushed him to adopt or to gain knowledge through various ways. So he read about various works, including your Marcus Aurelius works, right? That famous book, Meditation. Getting my point? Virat Kohli is a prime example. This fellow, when he was playing cricket, and even now to a very large extent, he is criticized sometimes by players who were not even 1% of what he is as of now. There's nothing wrong in people criticizing him. I myself have criticized him at certain points in time. Howsoever, the criticism must be constructive. More often than not, that is not the case. So when you have strong attitudes, you will be able to defend your ego and deal with the situation in the right way possible. Getting my point? Like this. Instrumental. Ratan Tata had an attitude, a strong positive attitude. He went and approached the companies, automobile manufacturing companies. The automobile manufacturing companies told Ratan Tata that he has to stick with what he is manufacturing as of now, right? Your basic goods rather than coming to automobile manufacturing industry. But this was Ratan Tata we are talking about. He used a strong attitude. He altered his attitude a little bit. Getting my point? And he developed Tata automobile industry. Tata Nexon, Tata Harrier are some of the cars which are very much in usage on Indian roads these days. He even built Tatas to such an extent, automobile industry. He went ahead and he bought Jaguar, as far as I remember, Land Rover. Is it not? My dear friends, when you're writing quotation or any other answers for that matter, it has to be a mixture of arguments as well as examples. It should not be just arguments only, neither just examples. All of you are following me? And in the conclusion part, what will you write? When we have a strong attitude, when we alter our attitude as per the circumstances, we reach the highest altitude or leave behind a legacy that can make people proud, that can make people inspired. That you can use if you want. All right. Sir, can you give us one more? Okay. When we alter our attitudes in the positive way, in the right direction, that is when we will be able to realize the destiny that our forefathers have dreamt for us. Getting my point? That's the thing. There is a very popular English phrase. It is not the dog that matters, but rather the fight in the dog that matters. Let me simplify it. It is not the size of the dog, but rather the fight in the dog. So, this English statement is basically talking about the kind of strong attitude you need to have in yourself, no matter the size, no matter the physique and everything. Getting my point? If you want, you can learn a little bit about David and Goliath story by Googling or chat GPTing it, whatever you feel comfortable with. Let's look at the next question. The next question, the quotation based question is: the strength of society is not in its laws, but in the morality of its people. Swami Vivekananda, a straightforward question. There's nothing extraordinarily difficult about it. And almost since last 2-3 years, there is a quote of Swami Vivekananda without fail. All right. So here, how will you give your introduction? Just focus on the gist of the question. The strength of a society is not in its laws, but in the morality of people. Good people create strong countries. Bad people create countries with various negative issues or injustices. That is what it is. Sir, can you give me one more? Without firmly entrenched ethics, laws, rules, and regulations will not be effective. That is what Swami Vivekananda is trying to say. Various people have spoken on similar lines. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar very famously told, a constitution might be good, but if the people are implementing it are immoral, then the good constitution will not have any effect. On the other hand, a bad constitution, if implemented by good people, can still create good outcomes. So keep in mind the gist and write that. In the body of the quotation, what will you write? In the body of the quotation, you can write about in the present times. Are people like this? The strength of the society, is it in laws or in morality of people? As of now, when you look at our society or in general, morality is weak. That is why whatever laws, rules, and regulations we have are very ineffective. So that observation you're going to make, and then you're going to write the reasons why morality as such is so low in our society these days. It can be because Papa ne kud rishwat dena sikaya. Not my Papa, I'm just saying. Understand my point? In that famous Three Idiots movie, there is a line, Rishwat dena to Papa ne kud sikaya. Like that, you're supposed to. Don't write exactly like that, because of our family upbringing, or because of our societal upbringing, or because of lack of ethical education in your institutions, your schools and colleges, you might become immoral. And if you look at society these days, ethics is considered as nothing but an academic exercise, not a practical one. That's the real tragedy, if you ask me. Getting my point? Many a times, family, they teach us that ethics is like a burden. It's not your strength. Many of the times, your friends or your near and dear ones might have a similar opinion as well. So when you have such type of a society, the society will not be strong, rather it will be weak. So I'm talking about the reasons why we have such a situation, the impact. The impact will be, there will be a lot of injustice, there will be nepotism, right? Whatever funds we have will not be used in the right way. So like this, you can write points. And then after writing this, you can write solutions. What could be the possible solutions in the present context? You can talk about reforming education on lines such as what was seen in your Nalanda or your Varda system of education or Shantiniketan model. Yes, you can write about NEP 2020. I'm not denying it, but there could be other things as well. You can talk about students participating in NCC, NSS, Scouts and Guides. You can talk about the character awards that we have spoken in one of the other questions as well. Like this, you can go ahead and give the conclusion as well. Please do it. Now, in the conclusion, let us say you have to write a conclusion for this. The strength of a society is not in its quantitative growth, but rather in the qualitative presence of values and morality. Like this, you can write a answer for it. So if you look at all these three quotations, I used different template to write an answer for all these three quotations. It was not the same, it was different. I want you to do the same. Many a times when I give three quotations back to my students, all these three quotation related answers, they seem very same. They're not different. For all of these three quotations, the template that I applied, the approach that I had was little bit different here and there. I want you to keep that in mind and then proceed forward. All right. Moving on to the fourth question. All right. For any kind of social re-engineering by successfully implementing welfare schemes, a civil servant must use reason and critical thinking in an ethical framework. Justify the statement with suitable examples. So before I start discussing the fourth question, this question, let me tell you, in that quotation based, you can bring philosophies as well if you are aware of it. All right. For example, in that first quotation, those who in trouble, untroubled are, will trouble trouble itself. So here you can bring the philosophy of Stoicism. So what do they speak about in Stoicism? In Stoicism, they say you have no control over the external circumstances because external circumstances are very random. Howsoever, you have the control of how you can react to these external circumstances. Getting my point? So you can bring philosophies as well in your answers wherever required. Getting my point? You can bring certain emotional intelligence concepts as well if you want. That is totally up to you. All right. Now, let's go back to that fourth question. For any kind of social re engineering, by successfully implementing welfare schemes, a civil servant must use reason and critical thinking in an ethical framework. Justify the statement with suitable examples. Let me start answering this question by giving you an example. All right. Let us say we are taking Swachh Bharat mission. Now, in Swachh Bharat mission, we had to go for certain social re-engineering. Getting my point? Because prior to your Swachh Bharat mission, we had total sanitation campaign and we also had Nirmal Bharat Abhiyan. Both of these campaigns, they did not give us success to such a large extent. On the other hand, with Swachh Bharat mission, it was relatively more successful because we used successful social re-engineering within an ethical framework. Within an ethical framework. Likewise, when you take your Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao program, even here we have been able to socially re-engineer certain regressive attitudes of people in the country. That is also successful re-engineering. Other than that, when exam season happens, our Prime Minister, he takes up certain initiatives such as Pariksha Pe Charcha. On a monthly basis, he also takes up, our Honorable Prime Minister, he also takes up your Man Ki Baat. Understand my point? All these things are socially re-engineering. But here they have given a very beautiful rider, very beautiful terms and condition, and that is within an ethical framework. Within an ethical framework, that must be there. Getting my point? Many people can socially re-engineer you in an unethical way and create problems for you. Here in the question, they have clearly, explicitly mentioned within an ethical framework. So you can bring Swachh Bharat Mission, you can bring Pariksha Pe Charcha, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao program. You can also bring the initiative that our Prime Minister started so that those who do not require LPG subsidies will do away with it. Many of us did do the same. So like this. Getting my point? You have certain officers who have successfully socially re-engineered the attitudes of people. For instance, you would have studied in your foundational or in your value addition course, or maybe in your self-study as well, that there was a place, a village where the parents of certain students going to Anganwadi, going to this government school, they were unwilling to send their children. The reason was in the school, the food which was being prepared was done by a Dalit. Now, here, the district administration was in a dilemma how to resolve the situation in a delicate and sensitive manner, and more so in a timely manner. One of the IAS officers went there to the school in question, right? He went there, he sat on the floor, he had good food prepared by a Dalit. So he was sending across a message, even without doing anything explicitly. He was sending across a message at the end of the day. No matter who you are, an IAS officer or whatnot, the food that is there, the person who has prepared it is God in his own way, in his own her way, is it not? That is why certain homes they have this tradition. Before they have food, they pray for a few seconds. Is it not? They pray for the bountifulness of food which is on their plate and also the hands that prepared them. Is it not? So people can socially re-engineer you. Most of the times it happens for negative reasons, but here they have explicitly given it has to be within an ethical framework, and they have also given justify the statement. You don't have to do any analysis as such. Okay, any examination, whatever statement they have given, you give evidence, you justify the need of this thing. That is more than enough. Am I making my point clear? Now you have officers like him, you have officers like, right? There is a very famous book called as Method in Madness, written by an individual called as Parameshwaran Iyer. He was an IAS officer. His contributions were highlighted by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in his Man Ki Baat episode, where he spoke about how Parameshwaran Iyer led by example. There was a situation where Parameshwaran Iyer, he went into the pit where garbage was being collected in a sustainable way. He went into that pit to showcase to the common people that you can clean the pit without having to worry about the side effects. Like this, there have been many multiple IAS as well as IPS officers. I remember Sanjukta Parashar, an IPS officer. Now, usually when people ride on their two-wheeler, they don't wear helmets. Sometimes even I don't wear helmets. I'm sorry about it. I'm going to change myself. I promise you. So when we talk about Sanjukta Parashar, what she did was she she caught hold of those people who were not wearing helmet. She spoke to these individuals who were not wearing helmet and she tried to persuade them why wearing helmet is necessary. It was a sort of social re-engineering as well. And that one movie which comes to my mind when we talk about social re-engineering happens to be Munna by MBBS. Bapu ne bola to bola hai, sahi bola hai. Is it not? So there are n number of ways that you can think when it comes to this question, but this is just your thought process. Now you have to put it in a way which is exam worthy. In that attitude chapter, you have topics such as social influence, persuasion. My dear friends, as a civil servant, you need to possess the necessary social influence and persuasion skills to change the negative attitudes of people so that the country moves in the right direction. So, keeping this idea in mind, a successful civil servant must have knowledge on how to use social influence and persuasion in a practical circumstance to push the country in a just, sustainable, and compassionate way. More than enough. Your introduction is done. Getting my point? You can write more introductions like this, or you can go for different ones. I don't have a problem. Here I'm just trying to communicate to you that given the time frame of 7 to 8 minutes, those who will be writing mains next time around, how to think. Thinking is where the game starts. Thinking is what will determine how the game proceeds forward as well. So this is what we are trying to discuss. All of you following me? Yes. Now when it comes to body of the answer, here if you talk about social influence, you have to make sure that the source of social influence, the target audience, the mode of appeal, and everything, they correspond to certain ethical frameworks. Getting my point? Let us say we are having your course on ethics, and if we get any officer who has been alleged of committing mistakes to teach what is ethics, then it becomes problematic. Is it not? That's the thing. The source of persuasion, what ethics that the source of the persuasion model should have, or the social influence model should have, also matters. Getting my point? At the same time, you should also be aware the kind of appeal that you're going forward with. That appeal should be ethical in nature, should appeal to the values such as love, care, and compassion, and not towards hatred and such other negative values. Getting my point? This is what they're saying when they're talking about ethical framework. When you talk about your modern India history, so many freedom fighters you have spoken about, they used social influence within an ethical framework. When you talk about Gandhi ji, he persuaded a greater chunk of India's population to let go of violence. When he suspended Chauri Chaura incident, that was his reason. He did not want India to win independence through the way of violence. Now, if you look at India post independence, yes, there have been various issues which have cropped up, but by far and large, Indians are non-violent. If there is any misunderstanding, most of the population wants to resolve their differences in a non-violent way. Yes, there are certain radicalized elements, be that as it may. Getting my point? Gandhi wanted to socially influence people. Gandhi wanted to persuade people within an ethical framework. This is what I mean. Getting my point? Along with that, whenever we are talking about persuasion, there are various persuasion models. Persuasion models like elaboration, likelihood model. No matter where you have attended your classes, no matter which book you have studied, this model will be discussed. In elaboration likelihood model, there are two ways. One is peripheral way of persuading and the other one is direct way. You need to be aware of your target audience. What are the type of messages that they will resonate with? And then you have to figure out a methodology. Here you can bring reason. Here you can bring critical thinking. Understand my point? If I'm going and teaching ethics for, let us say, third, fourth standard students, I will not be teaching what all I have taught you as of now, because that's not the proper way to teach them. That is not the way their mind will resonate with it. I have to come out with another way to teach them, another way to make them think. That is the thing. All of you are following my point? So, social influence and persuasion, these are concepts that you have studied in your classes, in your standard textbooks. How to apply it? To apply it, you must have reasoning, logical reasoning, emotional reasoning, critical thinking. What are the effective strategies in this situation? What could be the possible challenges that you might get? Once you account for all these eventualities, then when you go ahead and you focus on social influence and persuasion within an ethical framework, your social re-engineering will be successful. For example, Swachh Bharat Mission, Pariksha Pe Charcha, Beti Bachao Beti Padhao program. Getting my point? Giving up LPG subsidies. You can talk about these things, Chauri Chaura incident. But what will happen when social re-engineering is done without taking into account ethical framework? Dictators are born that way. It might be Julius Caesar, it might be Hitler, it might be Jim. You have your North Korean dictator, Kim Jong Un. Is it not like this? And any social re-engineering which is based on unethical framework, it creates more harm than good. Might not be in the short term, but in the long term. You can keep these ideas in mind and then you can write a conclusion as well as far as this question is concerned. All right, my dear friends, this is a discussion video. This is not a proper conceptual class. That is why I'm moving a little bit faster. If you have any doubts with regards to your ethics preparation or even essay for that matter, you can always get in touch with me through my Telegram ID. My Telegram ID is Umesh 1991 199101. Umesh 199101. I will be happy to be of some assistance in whatever ways I can be. All right, moving ahead. They've also asked one more question. What are the major teachings of Mahavir? Explain their relevance in the contemporary world. And this is not a question that they're asking for the very first time, my dear friends. A similar theme-based question has been asked before as well. For example, prior to this, they had asked a question, how are the teachings of Buddha important in contemporary times? They've also asked in 2023, how are the teachings of Guru Nanak important in the present times? Getting my point? Now they're asking about Mahavir. In your art and culture, or probably in your ancient and medieval history, you would have studied a chapter called as Bhakti and Sufi movement. Many people study Bhakti and Sufi movement from a prelims point of view, and there are many people who skip that chapter altogether. Don't do that. That is wrong, because what you're studying there will be useful in your ethics paper as well as your essay paper. So, how will you start introduction? So whenever I teach Buddhism, whenever I teach any other Bhakti reformers, Sufi reformers, I tell them the message that these reformers spoke about, even though it was in BC era, the relevance of these messages are still there. The reason is very simple. The teachings of Mahavir are based on universal values like love, care, and compassion, which will always resonate across time and space. And moral universalism is a concept that you have studied in your classes, that you would have studied in your books. Using that, I've just written this. Getting my point? The teachings of Mahavira showcase a pragmatic and practical way to overcome the multitude of challenges that we face in the present times. This could be one more. The simple and pragmatic teachings of Mahavira can give us the necessary push or motivation to find solutions to various moral issues existing in the country or in the world. That also you can write. Here, if you look at the question, it is not contemporary India, it is contemporary world. So you have your introduction ready. What did Mahavira speak about? What were some of his important teachings? You know, he spoke about truth, he spoke about non-violence, right? He spoke about non-possession, non-stealing, simplicity. He spoke about right faith, right knowledge, right conduct. He spoke about your doctrines such as Anekantavada, Sadvada, things like this. So you can explain what are some of his important teachings in a very brief way. Because remember, here the question has two parts. One is the teachings part. The second part is explain how they are relevant in the present time. So the first part you have written, what are his major teachings, what I just told you a couple of minutes ago. Explain the importance, the relevance of these teachings in the contemporary world. So let us say I have Anekantavada. Getting my point? I have Anekantavada, where there is a belief that multiple perceptions of truth can coexist at any given point in time. When there is people who adopt Anekantavada, we will be accepting the tolerance. We will have tolerance to accept diverse opinions in the country, in the world. And when you look at the contemporary world, tolerance, is it increasing or decreasing? It is decreasing. Mahavira's teachings can be useful here. Getting my point? Likewise, truth and non-violence, it is important in the present times. Look at the geopolitical scenario these days. It is filled with war and violence of different kinds. Simplicity. Many people do not have that emphasis on simplicity. They say, I am a very simple man, but when you look at these individuals, they are wearing all these extraordinarily costly items, materialistic items. I don't have any problem with people having materialistic possessions. That's okay, that's fine. But the pursuit of materialistic possessions, if done in an uncontrollable manner, can increase the consumerism, which can make you miserable as well. So you mention the teachings and you make sure that these teachings are connected to some of the issues which are happening. It might be corruption, it might be lack of ethics in private sphere, it might be rise of this murders and killings within family these days, which you're reading almost every other day. It can be from a geopolitical scenario. It can be from criminalization of politics scenario. It can be from a consumerist culture. There is no scarcity of issues in the world. There are so many. Just connect them to the teachings of Mahavir. That is the thing. In the conclusion, what will you write? In the conclusion, remember this. When they are asking about Buddha, Guru Nanak, and now Mahavira, your UPSC is giving you a message that religion, yes, it can be an opium for masses. But I respectfully disagree with this opinion. Yes, it can be opium sometimes. Howsoever, when you understand the religion and the core values behind the religion, it can become a hope to overcome the problems that humanity is facing as of now. You can use this idea and you can write an answer for this question. All right? Yes. Moving on. So when you look at the other questions, one who is devoted to one's duty attains highest perfection in life. Analyze this statement with reference to sense of responsibility and personal fulfillment as a civil servant. Here they're asking questions specifically from the angle of civil servant. Not a problem. We can answer it. That's not at all an issue. So look at the statement. One who is devoted to one's duty attains highest perfection in life. You have your Bhagavad Gita talking about duties. When Krishna has a word with Arjuna, do your duty, my dear Arjuna. You have to fight adharma, even if that fight involves your kith and kin. You have your Immanuel Kant, who speaks about deontological duty. You have your Abraham Lincoln. You have Mahatma Gandhi. There are n number of people like that. So when I talk about this, one who is devoted to one's duty attains highest perfection in life. Immanuel Kant has given a very beautiful quote. Only those people who descend into hell of self-improvement can attain godliness in their lives, can attain divinity in their life. Only those who descend into the hell of self improvement can attain that godliness or divinity in the world. Usually, I teach this quote in my OGP as well as value addition classes. In case if you're aware of it, good enough. In case if you're not aware, just Google and learn more about it. So if I'm writing the introduction, I will use Emmanuel Coach quote on self-improvement. And on similar lines, when I go to the body of the answer, look at this question. Here they have given, one who is devoted to one's duty attains highest perfection in life. What is this highest perfection? It can be anything. It can be subjective. So you have to simplify that for the reader, for the evaluator, what you think is highest perfection. If you look at the question carefully, they have also said, analyze the statement with reference to sense of responsibility and personal fulfillment as a civil servant. So this highest perfection in life, they themselves have given, it should have sense of responsibility, there should be personal fulfillment. And here, both of these two things, they are connected to what? They are connected to civil servant. So as a civil servant, what is the sense of responsibility I have? I have a sense of responsibility to ensure social justice. I have a sense of responsibility to uphold rule of law. I have a sense of responsibility to promote ethical governance. I have a sense of responsibility to ensure effective utilization of funds. I have a sense of responsibility to ensure highest standards of probity, and I can go on like this. That's not a problem for me. All right. How did I generate this 5 to 6 points? I just kept syllabus in mind and then I went ahead. I have a sense of responsibility to the Constitution. I have a sense of responsibility to the national ideals, to the sacrifices that our forefathers have undertaken to make this freedom that you and I are enjoying as this country, in this country, a reality. I have that sense of responsibility. Getting my point? This is just one part of it. What is the other part? Personal fulfillment. I want happiness in life. I want contentment in life. I want to leave behind a positive legacy. When you're devoted to duty, these three things which gives you that personal fulfillment will come easily to you. Simple. Getting my point? So when you're devoted to duty, how that sense of responsibility helps you, helps a civil servant, you just have to expand on it. How that duty helps you to attain that personal fulfillment, that you have to explain. My dear friends, again I'm going to deviate a little bit and I'm going to give you a small advice. People are chat GPT most of the things these days. I'm not going to say that it is wrong, but my dear friends, just be careful. Whenever you see a question, you take a pen, you take a paper, you brainstorm, you write an answer. No matter how good it is, no matter how bad it is, you write. Once you have written, then you Google, then you chat GPT. Don't do vice versa. The moment you see a question, don't chat GPT the answer for that question and then try to write an answer. It is not the right approach. Getting my point? Like this. And when you come to the examples part of it, you can talk about some good officers. Samit Sharma, an IAS officer, Dr. Roshan Jacob, an IAS officer. All right. You can talk about certain IPS officers as well. In the last couple of minutes, I spoke about Kiran Bedi, Sanjukta Parashar. It is up to you. Getting my point? Now, when you come to the conclusion, how will you write? An emphasis on duty will ensure that we leave behind a much more beautiful world to our future. That is more than enough. Be precise in your answers. You don't have to elongate it just for the sake of it. So let us say, sir, I want to elongate it just for the sake of it, or sir, I want to give a thinker based. Immanuel Kant, again, very beautifully, he says, do the right thing because it is right. Getting the point? It is your duty to do the right thing and do it because it is right. If you do that, personal fulfillment and also the collective fulfillment will become a reality. Immanuel Kant famously said, with an inverted commas, do the right thing because it is right, close the inverted commas. Being devoted to one's duty will ensure public service. The dedication to public service translates words into measurable and tangible outcomes that can make the development of this country a reality. Okay, let's move on to the next question. To achieve holistic development goal, a civil servant acts as an enabler and active facilitator of growth rather than a regulator. What specific measures would you suggest to achieve this goal? My dear friend, this question is from this topic called as public service values. All right. So here you have certain concepts which are usually taught to you in your classes or in your books as well. New public management, civil service values. Getting my point? So you can use these things. When you talk about your Britishers, when they were there, they used to rule over us as a regulator. They did not facilitate growth. They were too much obsessed with bureaucratic values. But as of now, if you want to maintain a growth facilitator type of attitude, you should find a balance between bureaucratic values, democratic values. Along with that, you should have managerial values. Along with that, you should have social values. This will help you to ensure that you become a growth facilitator rather than a regulator. Like this, you can talk about few more measures. What measures can you talk about to achieve holistic development goal? You should encourage participative governance model where common people have a voice in how decisions are made, in how decisions are taken. Points like this could be mentioned. I just gave you two measures. Apart from that, you can also talk about other things. Getting my point? Encouraging transparency, encouraging social audit mechanisms. So when you share information, the common public will have the necessary informed opinions that can help in increasing the growth of the country. They might give you the necessary innovative solutions that you might not be aware of. Getting my point? So you can bring new public management concept here. You can bring that civil service values concept here. You can talk about the various transparency related measures that we can take so that we become growth facilitators and we do not go back to the license Raj permit that we had prior to 1991. Getting my point? When most of the things these days are made digital, the common public have access to this information. So the government departments, the ministries are also careful in terms of doing their duties. Is this not helping in the holistic growth of the country? Is this not helping where the government departments are becoming growth facilitators than regulators? Is it not? And we have to reduce the complexity of certain laws which exist in the country, because complexity of laws at times can give discretionary powers which might be used in an unethical and unjustifiable situation. When you simplify the laws, when you clearly define the discretionary powers given to a civil servant, it makes the life of the common public or business entities that much more simple. And the government, be it at the center or even at the state, are going for easing the laws that exist, reducing the complexity of laws. Like this, you can mention. Like what I have done in the past, introduction, body, and conclusion, I won't be able to do because I have a friend of mine here who is saying, Sir, the video is becoming much longer. So I'm going to increase my pace. All right. In case if you have any doubts, I've given you my Telegram ID. You can get in touch with me. If you're someone who is there in Bangalore, right, you can get in touch with me as of now by visiting Insights headquarters. All right, good enough. The next question, my dear friends, is a straightforward one. This is from the chapter of probity. The question is, it is said that for an ethical work culture, there must be code of ethics in place in every organization. To ensure value-based and compliance-based work culture, what suitable measures would you adopt in your workplaces? Right? Now, here, there is a very beautiful introduction that I usually give to my students. Let me read out this introduction. Work culture is not just one aspect of the game, it is the game. In the end, an organization is nothing more than the collective capacity of its people to create value. So if you look at this question, they've given terminologies like work culture. I'm just defining that work culture here. Many people think that work culture is just one aspect of the game. It is not. It is the game, right? It is your work culture that determines the success of your organization. Forget organization, it is what that determines your success as well. Getting my point? Many people who started watching this video, after a few minutes, they looked at the duration of the video and they might have stopped. On the other hand, if there is any individual who has made it till now, my dear friend, you have my respect and you also have my gratitude. All right, let's come back. So, in the introduction, I've just tried to define what is work culture. Work culture is not just one aspect of the game, it is the game. In the end, what is work culture? In the end, work culture is the collective capacity of an organization to add value, collective value to what we are doing. That is work culture. So, your introduction is sorted out. Now, here they're saying they are also introducing one more concept here. Look into this. Based on code of ethics, they've already asked questions before. It is said that for an ethical work culture, there must be code of ethics in place in every organization. Private organizations, they have code of ethics. When we talk about from a governmental point of view, we have code of conduct, but we don't have code of ethics. Second, ARC has highlighted that the work culture situation in our country is poor. So you can start the body of the answer by saying, second ARC has identified the poor work culture that exists in Indian governmental organization. Example, SBI and the never ending lunch break. Don't write that, write like this. I just gave you an example. Understand my point? That's the thing. I remember a couple of years ago, there was a rank holder who had written SBI means. Right? He had mentioned like this in his answer. There's nothing wrong with it. You can do it. That's not a problem. If you want to talk about certain ranking parameters, I usually share this parameter with some of my students that there was a ranking parameter for 180 organizations. And whatever Indian company we have, which is competing even at a global level, let us say Reliance, or which is very famous at the national level like ICICI, SBI, and everything, there were 180 countries, 180 organizations ranked on work culture. And most of the Indian organization, they started from the bottom. Okay, work culture in our country is really poor. I took an observation from second ARC, I justified it. After that, what more should we do? We should talk about the code of ethics. Second ARC suggested the usage of code of ethics. DOPT had suggested the need of public service code bill. What is code of ethics? Hyphen, it is a document which highlights the values that we need to keep in mind at every level of the organization to conduct any work. This code of ethics gives us a clarity. If it is not there, it is very difficult to overcome dilemma type of situations, crisis of conscience type of situations, things like that. All right. Now here they have combined code of ethics with work culture. Now the thing with me, in my classes, I usually mention what Harvard Business Review had opined about what constitutes a good work culture. So this Harvard Business Review, I'm going to read it out. All right. Here they have said for an organization to have good work culture, you need caring for, being interested in, and maintaining responsibility for colleagues as friends. This is what Harvard Business Review is saying. This is just one point. What are the other points? It is saying we need to provide support for one another, including offering kindness and compassion when others are struggling. What are the other things it is saying? Avoiding blame and forgiving mistakes, inspiring one another at work, emphasizing the meaningfulness of the work, treating one another with respect, gratitude, trust, and integrity. This is what Harvard Business Review is suggesting so that you have a good work culture in your organization. So in the body of the answer, I will write what second ARC has opined about work culture. I will talk about what committees or organizations have suggested the need for code of ethics. I will mention what is code of ethics. Then I will write as per Harvard Business Review, what constitutes good work culture, and to make this good work culture a reality, what code of ethics should we have? We should have respect. That is one of the important things. We should also mention compassion. There is one more thing. Treating each other as an end in itself. That is one more thing. So in that code of ethics, you're going to write few values like this. You can also talk about trust. You can also talk about healthy competition. Getting my point? You just have to complement two concepts here. Nothing other than that. It is not a difficult question. This is a straightforward question. That is why I told you in the beginning of the discussion that it is not a very difficult paper as such. It is a doable paper. It is just that it will demand some more seconds or maybe a minute extra than what you're used to. Okay. Now, let us move on to the last question. India is an emerging economic power of the world, as it has recently secured the status of fourth largest economy of the world as per IMF projection. However, it has been observed that in some sectors, allocated funds remain either underutilized or misutilized. What specific measures would you recommend for ensuring accountability in this regard to stop leakages and gaining the status of third largest economy of the world in near future? Question mark. By the time you come to this question, you might be worried about the time that you have in front of you. So you might not have read the question in the way you're supposed to. You might have rushed. Again, you will read the question. Again, you will start wondering what should be my intro, body, conclusion, what should be my structure. My dear friends, have a thorough knowledge of PYQ. All right. There is a PYQ where they've asked a question about misutilization and underutilization. If you're aware of that PYQ, answering this question becomes that much more easier. Chanakya in his Arthashastra has spoken about effective utilization of funds. You can bring him over here if you want. Along with that, if you want to go ahead with something else as well, that is also fine. All right. What can we write? India is an emerging economic power of the world, as it has recently secured status of fourth largest economy of the world as per IMF projection. However, it has been observed. So here for me, there is one more PYQ where they have asked, non-performance of duty is also a form of corruption. So when I see misutilization or underutilization, for me that is also a form of corruption. So I'm going to use this PYQ and then I'm going to give an introduction. Underutilization and misutilizations are other forms of corruption where we are eroding the strength of duties. Such corruption eat away at the moral fiber in the society and create distrust more than enough. When I go to the body of the answer, you can justify how funds are being underutilized. Let us say we have given certain money for the maintenance of public infrastructure. Let us say bridge. The government departments are not spending it there. Bridge collapses are happening. You know that. Misutilization. The schemes which require money, rather than giving those schemes the money, it is being diverted to populist schemes. Misutilization. Any populist schemes will provide short-term pleasure but not long-term solution. You also know that. So can we write these things? Of course you can write, because you have an institution called as CAG which has observed the negative impacts of these misutilization and underutilization in various government policies and actions. You can do that. There's nothing wrong in it. All right. Now they're asking you, what specific measures would you suggest? Would you recommend for ensuring accountability? This is an easy answer. Now, the moment you see accountability, many people write from a governance point of view. I'm not going to say it is wrong. Accountability usually has three angles associated with it. One is your professional accountability. You can be held accountable by Lokpal, Lokayukta, CBI, various institutions like that. All of you are following me. You can be held accountable by your code of conduct. Getting my point? Your judiciary. What specific measures? These are the measures. From accountability as three angles. One is professional. The other one is social accountability. So you can be held accountable through usage of social audit mechanisms, through usage of right to information. This is social accountability. And then you have your personal accountability, your self accountability. You're holding yourself accountable for spending that money in the most effective and efficient way. That is self accountability. Let us say you have your own code of ethics. Let us say you have your own moral philosophy, constitutional philosophies, which holds you accountable. Understand my point? Even if professional accountability is there or not there, even if you do not have your social accountability, if your self accountability is very good, you will spend the money in the right way, in the utmost wisdomful manner. You will showcase highest objectivity in spending that money. Am I making my point clear? You will showcase the largest moral commitment in spending that money in the welfare of people and not for any corruption purposes. Sir, give me examples. Not at all a problem. You have your Vishweshwaraya, the famous story that you have read. He did not even carry a candle which was bought using government funds for his personal use. Getting my point? You have certain IAS and IPS officers who use their government vehicles for their personal uses. This is for me a misutilization as well. It is a form of corruption if you ask me. All right. But many people say, sir, this is India. This is how India is going to be. Chalta hai thoda bahut idhar aur udhar. Nadiyate. All right. But it is also a form of corruption, my dear friends. Getting my point? There are certain IAS and IPS officers who don't use their official vehicles for personal uses. If you are aware of their name, you can write it. If you're not aware, you can just mention this scenario. Getting my point? Conclusion. India becoming third largest economy in itself, though good, it must be done based on moral foundations so that it has the longevity and sustainability to become the best. That is important. Becoming third largest economy from fourth, though it is good, we have to be the best. That is what being a Vikshit Bharat, that is what is the dream of Vikshit Bharat or Amrit Kal. Understand my point? We have a tryst with destiny that we are still to keep. That is what Nehru spoke about in his first speech. So, my dear friends, now let us come to the case study part, the section B. If you look at the case studies, more or less, I do not see that kind of a bouncer except that 11th question, which might take you some more time. The other case studies, more or less, are on similar lines. I will not be able to discuss each and every case study in detail because then it will take me another 3 more hours. All right. I will be just mentioning the similar themes. Understand my point? And any relevant points that you have to keep in mind. Look at the 7th case study. Here they have asked about Mr. Vijay, a deputy commissioner of a remote district of hilly northern state. So here there was a disaster, and because of the disaster, many people have suffered. He gets a call from his family, I think, who were staying in Kerala, and his mother unfortunately passed away. So here you have personal versus professional responsibilities that are coming into picture here. Getting my point? That is the thing. I'm not going to read the every part of case study. I'm just going to tell you this case study is about managing your personal as well as professional responsibilities. That's the thing. So here you have his mother passing away. You have the disaster increasing to a larger extent, which because of the increasing complexity of the disaster, he has to stay there itself. Getting my point? So what we are supposed to do? So look at the sub questions they are asking. What are the options available with Vijay? This is something that they have asked before as well. What are the ethical dilemmas being faced by Vijay? This is also something that it is a continuation of your last PYQ trend. Critically evaluate and examine each of these options identified by Vijay. Here also there is no bouncer or dusra. Here, the last one, which of the options do you think would be most appropriate for Vijay to adopt and why? See, ethics, the way it is approached by many people, it is subjective in nature. And I'm not saying that this is bad, it is good, it has its own advantages. But whenever you're writing case studies, you should have a formula, an approach that can help you to prioritize content. Whenever you read a case study, my dear friends, I tell my students to read the case study and observe to what syllabus topics that it corresponds to in section A. For example, you have determinants of ethics, you have consequences of ethics in human actions, you have conscience. When I read this case study, it corresponds to syllabus topics like determinants of ethics, consequence of ethics in human actions, conscience as a reliable source of guide. These topics come to my mind. So keeping the syllabus topics in your mind, you can write a very reasonable introduction. Now, why am I going for this approach? The answer is very simple. The reason is, in your UPSC syllabus, very clearly they have mentioned case studies on above issues. So, case study, one of the prime purposes of giving you case studies is to test you how well you have understood your section A. If you're just paraphrasing what you have written, what question they have given you, you will be able to get some marks, but it is not going to be the best possible marks. However, when you read the case study and you link it with the syllabus topics in your section A, it becomes that much more better. Getting my point? So you can link it with attitude chapter as well. You can link it with emotional intelligence. Getting my point? And we have just discussed that question in quotation. Those who in trouble, untroubled are, will trouble the trouble itself. This case study is based on various aspects of your section A syllabus. You will keep these various aspects and then you will write a simple introduction. Vijay faces a major dilemma in his life vis-a-vis to choose his professional responsibilities or his personal responsibilities, to listen to his conscience or to follow what laws, rules and regulations demand him. These are your dilemmas, but I'm just telling you. Getting my point? So let me go back to the introduction. I will say, listen to this. Vijay and his actions are determined by the evolving situations, both in his personal as well as professional life. His choices to navigate these circumstances will determine the consequences. He also faces a dilemma. Overcoming this dilemma will demand strong attitude and emotional intelligence to deal with this. If not, it can lead to crisis of conscience situation as well. You can write like this if you want. What I have done, whatever case study is there, I've just tried to connect it with section A syllabus. That is all I have done, nothing more than that. Do not paraphrase. If you paraphrase, it becomes nothing extraordinarily different. It is much or less the same thing. Along with writing this syllabus connection, you can also mention the stakeholders. I'm saying you can mention. I'm not saying you should. Depending upon the length of the case study, depending upon the number of sub-questions, either you can choose to mention the stakeholders or you might not choose to. It is okay. It is fine. There are times when you write mock test, individuals will write, you will get comments that you must write stakeholders. That is not a rule, my dear friends. Now the case study here is relatively short. But what if it was a 2022 case study where the seventh case study was like a Nekta Kapoor serial? If you start writing stakeholders for all these long, big case studies, you will never be able to write a good answer. Complete the question paper. So identify the case study to which section A syllabus it corresponds to. If you have time, write the stakeholders and then you proceed forward with options available to Vijay. What are the options available to Vijay? He can go and attend the funeral, leaving behind whatever job he has to his junior. He can stay back and he can ensure that disaster management is done to the utmost extent and then he can go back to Kerala. Third thing, he can try to understand whether he can give certain roles and responsibilities to his junior officers and remotely from back home he can manage it. Other options, he can say to his parents, sorry, in that case study, the parents, that's not a problem, that is a problem over there, right? He has lost his mother. So over here he can say to his family to go ahead with the ceremonies associated with the burial of his mother, the funeral rites of his mother. Understand my point? I know it is painful, but sometimes as a public servant, you will be put in hard situations where your commitment to public duty will be tested. And apart from these four options, you can write many. That's up to you. All if you're following me, apart from these four options, you can write one more, two more. That's up to you. You can mix a few of the options and you can write another new option altogether different. That is also fine. Here we are not looking at the number of options you're writing. If you write some 3 to 5 options, it is more than enough. What we are looking at is how you're thinking. That is more important to us. What are the ethical dilemmas? On one side, personal, on the other side, professional. Getting my point? On one side, you have honesty. On the other side, you have loyalty. Getting my point? On one side, you have individual rights. On the other side, you have community well-being. Like this. I've told you, 8 to 9 dilemmas are usually asked in your ethics paper starting from 2013 till your any other year you write. So if you have the basic understanding of these dilemmas, writing answers to these questions are easier. Getting my point? Next, they're asking you critically evaluate and examine each of these options defined by Vijay. So when they're asking you to define the option, to evaluate these options, let us say you've given 4 to 5 options. You have to find out what are the pros and cons of these options, how to think of pros and cons. One pro you will be determining based on what value it is upholding. Another pro you will be determining based on which stakeholder is being given or which stakeholder is receiving good help because of it. So you have written 2 pros. One pros based on which values are being upheld. Another pros being which stakeholder is being rewarded or is affected for the right reasons. Likewise, when they're asking you to critically evaluate, you can write the cons as well. One con from which values are compromised, one con from which stakeholders are compromised. Getting my point? For example, let us say I will stay back. What are the values that I'm upholding here? Devotion to duty, devotion to public duty, I'm upholding. What is the cons? Devotion to my mother as a son, I am compromising. Stakeholder, the people of that particular hilly remote area are getting the benefit of me staying there because I can manage. I also have experience. What is the cons? Which stakeholder is getting affected? My family, my mother, my dead mother. Like this. Many people, when they write case studies, they go ahead reading the case study and whatever comes to their mind, they tend to answer it. It might work out for some people, but I believe there are some 8 to 9 steps that I usually teach in my classes. If you keep in mind this 8 to 9 steps, whatever case studies they've given you, no matter the length of the case studies, you can complete them within 15 minutes. That is the reality. So here you have, let us say you have done the pros and cons for all the 4 to 5 options you have written in the earlier question. The last question, which of the option do you think would be most appropriate for Vijay to adopt? You can say fifth option, whatever option you have written, which you think is most reasonable, you say that is the option I'm going for. Why are you going for that option? I'm going for that option because it is upholding values like courage, dedication to public service, compassion for vulnerable sections. So you're giving a value justification as to why you're going ahead with that option. The second one, you're talking about what philosophies you're upholding when you're going for that option. Let us say here, I will ask the family members of mine to do the funeral rites of my mother. What is the philosophy based on which I'm asking my family members? Very simple. Gandhi ji gave a very beautiful philosophy, talisman philosophy, Gandhiji's talisman. If you are ever in a situation where you're facing a dilemma, just close your eyes. And whatever course of action you're choosing, if it is going to help someone in need, someone who is poor, go ahead and do it. That is Gandhiji's talisman. Getting my point? And you might also talk about any personality, any individual who were in a similar position and who took such bold decisions. There were many. During COVID period, many IAS, IPS officers, they lost their dear ones. Nevertheless, they came back to work. There were many female IAS officers who delivered a baby and within a day or two or within a few days, right, they were back in the office managing this COVID response. Many a times we are surrounded by news which are negative in nature. However, even in this world, even now, there are multiple officers, multiple public servants who are putting the interest of the country over and above personal interest. And remember, In a dilemma, no matter which option you choose, option A or option B, there will be some pain. The question is to minimize this pain to the greatest extent possible. All right. If you look at the eighth case study, it is based on your directive principles of state policy, that is Roti Kapra Makan. Here it is about, again, your environmental ethics. This is not the first time that they're asking this question, this theme. They've asked before as well. Look at the sub questions. Can deforestation be ethically justified in the pursuit of social welfare objectives like housing for the homeless? If there is greatest happiness for the greatest number, yes, ethically justified, and whomsoever is facing certain pain, for them we need to have rehabilitation measures. You can bring John Rawls' theory of social justice also here. That's not a problem. All right. Now, some of the students have, sir, they will be giving 4 pages or 5, whatever it might be. How should we write an answer? See, depending upon the sub questions, you choose the length of your introduction, depending upon the sub questions. Let us say the first page you have written introduction and stakeholders. The second page you can give it to sub question A. Third page you can give it to sub question B. That is, what are the socio-economic, administrative and ethical challenges in balancing environmental conservation with human development? Some of these things we have already discussed in your section A, so I'm not going to talk about it. So in the third page, you're going to talk about your sub question B. And in the last, what substantial alternative or policy interventions can be proposed to ensure both environmental integrity and human dignity are protected? So you can talk about amendments in the Environmental Protection Act or EIA, understand my point, assessment, social audits, things like this. Getting my point? You can talk about any measures in terms of increasing awareness, including people in the decision-making process, right? You might have heard of PISA Act. Getting my point? You have these policies such as social forestry policies, community reserves, conservation reserves, where we are trying to find that moral balance in balancing your development activities with environmental integrity as well. Like this, you can write in the fourth page. All of you are following my point. And the last part of the fourth page, you can write conclusion. The spirit of Vasudeva Kutumbakam has always guided India in terms of upholding environmental integrity as well as human dignity in its policies and actions. I know I am racing a bit, but nevertheless, I hope you understand the reason or purpose behind it. Getting my point? In case if you have any doubts, please do get in touch with me through my Telegram ID. So you have ninth case study. The ninth case study is a little bit long, right? It is about Subhash, secretary in PWD department, Public Works Department. If you go and open your 2023, again, Public Works Department has been asked. Look at the sub questions here. Discuss ethical issues. Some questions will have dilemmas, some will have issues. This one has issues. Look at the other one. Here, what is the case study based on? Here you have a guy called as Subhash who is trusted by his seniors. Getting my point? And at the same time, you have a family member of Subhash who wants to find out the information related to certain governmental working so he can get the necessary impetus to make business decisions that will affect him for the better. This is conflict of interest case study. If you open your 2023 or any question paper from 2013, any case study, one case study from each year will be based on conflict of interest. This is what it is. All right. So if you are preparing for case studies in such a way where you have an introduction ready, where you have conceptual clarity, understand upon where you have certain specific measures and certain measures that you have designed or you have been inspired from any other countries, then it becomes easier to write all these questions. So in conflict of interest, what could be the various ethical issues? If Subhash tells all these things to Vikas, he is compromising on the constitutional morality. We have discussed about it. Getting my point? These are standard stuff, my dear friends. Each and every year you will have a case study, at least one case study based on conflict of interest. Look at the other sub question, critically examine the options, standard stuff. Which of the above would be most appropriate and why? Critically examine. Let us say you have written some 6 options, let us say. So for each of the 6 options, you have to write pros and cons, minimum 2 pros and cons, one pros from a value point of view, another pro from a stakeholder point of view, one cons from a value point of view, one cons from a stakeholder point of view. Like this, it should be. All right. When you go to the other one, which of the above would be most appropriate? 6 options you've written, you can say fifth option, or you can say the best of, you can create the best, another option by combining the best of fourth, fifth, and sixth, let us say. And then you have to justify why it is important. It is important because, okay, it is important because for value purposes, which values we are upholding. It is important for what purposes? Philosophical purposes. Which philosophies I'm upholding, which values I'm upholding. If there is any personality in a similar position, you can talk about it. Lal Bahadur Shastri did not allow any family members to use his name for any of their selfish purposes. Getting my point? Now, if you look at the 10th case study, Rajesh is now sufficient senior and is expecting his next promotion in JAG. All of you follow my point? Here it is talking about coercion or undue influence. Here it is talking about personal benefit, even if it comes at the cost of your collective benefit of the government. These are not new case studies. The themes are same. It is just that they have created a new story as such. Old wine in a new bottle. This is what I can think for case studies, for most of the case studies in this paper. All right. Look at the other one. The sub questions. Options available, standard. Ethical issues, standard. What would be the most appropriate, standard? Now there is a problem here. Whenever they're asking you what would be the most appropriate, what many people do, they will not give 3 levels of justifications that we have done so far. So when they're writing 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th or 12th, it will appear as if it is monotonous, as if it is same, as if it is repeating. That will cause problem for them. So that is why I told the value that you are highlighting in 7th case study and the value that you are highlighting in 8th case study, let it be a little bit different. The philosophy that you're mentioning 7th case study and the philosophy that you're mentioning 8th case study, let it be different. The personality example that you're writing in 7th case study and the personality example you're writing in 8th case study to justify why you're taking that option, let it be different. Then it will not appear monotonous. Getting my point? I know it is difficult, right? If things were so easy, this examination would not be having such a success ratio that we see in the present times, is it not? The success ratio would be much, much higher. People would be clearing in large numbers in first attempt itself. All right. So this Manrega question, this is what has caused multiple problems to individuals as far as I have spoken with. Right here you have a senior, your predecessor, who has taken various actions. All these actions are unethical. These are forms of corruption only. So they are asking you, what is your reaction to the above situation? My reaction would be to identify what are the short-term challenges, what are the long-term challenges. Keeping this short-term and long-term challenges, I will be resolving by using the necessary aptitude, skills, by ensuring constitutional morality in the process. Like this, I have to write. So in this resolution of process, I will be aware of what my strengths are, weaknesses are, opportunities are, threats are, and then I will design a process. What I told you now, strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats, they're nothing but SWOT analysis. Getting my point? What actions would you initiate to solve the various issues listed above? Okay, here it is plural. So option A, option B, option C. How would you deal with the above situation? Right? You can choose one of the options that you have written, or you can create a new option, even though they have not asked justification, you can write. Getting my point? Yes. And this is the case study where sub-question A and sub-question C appear similar. So to make it different, in the sub-question C, I have written this value, philosophy, and personality justification here. All right. Look at the last case study. It is not entirely different from what you have seen in previous years. As far as I remember, there was a case study probably in 2024, 2023, where there was an issue in the district. There was unemployment, there was refugee crisis, and this was creating multiple challenges for the officers there. How to deal with the situation, the question was asked. Here, the theme has remained the same, but in terms of sub-questions, they have made some changes here. What are the sub-questions? What are the options available to Ashok to cope with situation? So here, Ashok, he is in a border state where people from the country bordering the state, some 200 to 250 people, right? Common people, and in this 200 to 250, you have some more of you have soldiers with guns as well. They want to cross over in an illegal way. So, what are the options available to Ashok to cope with this situation? Either he can allow or he cannot allow. Or if he allows, what are the processes that he has to manage the common people, to manage your soldiers with guns, how to deal with this neighboring country because you have to keep up good relations with them as well. So, keeping these things in mind, you're going to design options. Look at the second one. What are ethical and legal dilemmas being faced by Ashok? At the end of the day, when they want to cross over, it can be illegal. What could be the ethical dimensions if you allow as of now? Many people might start to flood, and this might create problems in terms of resource scarcity. It might create divisiveness in that border state. It might lead to riots. I'm just saying it. If you do not allow, it is a question of care ethics. Understand my point? India wants to be a Vishwaguru, so it has to showcase values like that. So these are arguments that you can make. Here they've asked about ethical and legal dilemmas. I'm just mentioning that. And here, one of the legal dilemmas, right, in the common people who are coming, some might have been accused of committing murders elsewhere in their foreign country. So, how do you deal with it? Right? Some of the children might have lost their parents. How do you deal with the situation? How will you ensure the necessary amenities, basic amenities that they require? These are challenges and dilemmas that you can that your Ashok faces as of now, is it not? So we have certain constitutional commitments, we have such a certain global commitments as well. So how do we overcome these dilemmas? That you're supposed to write. Which of the options do you think would be more appropriate for Ashok to adopt and why? Standard stuff. The last question, in the present situation, what are the extra precautionary measures to be taken by the border guarding police in dealing with soldiers in uniform? The best possible way to deal with them was given by Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw when he took the leadership during 1971 war and he captured around 93,000 prisoners of war. So whomsoever soldiers have come, you have to ensure that the guns that they have are kept separate. You have to institute a process for their repatriation as soon as possible, ensuring that once repatriation is done, these soldiers will not be punished. You need to have a military police where these soldiers are staying to ensure that these soldiers are not indulging in any negative or unethical activity as such. You also have to ensure that basic amenities and respect that any soldier deserves is given to them. So for me, whatever case studies they ask, it's not completely hypothetical. It is based on some or the other real situation we would be seeing in the present times or in the past. Quite routinely, there are quite a few North Korean soldiers who will be trying to cross over to South Korea. So how South Korea has dealt with these soldiers can also give you the necessary model to write an answer for this. All right, my dear friends, this discussion compared to your GS1, 2, and 3, where there were multiple people, right? Even your essay, here it was just me. Understand my point? I just had a camera in front of me and I just went in a conversation. However, I have tried as much as possible to do justice given the time that is something that we given the time that I had. I'm not going to say that this discussion has completely cleared your doubts. There will be some doubts, there will be some challenges. Get in touch with me, get your doubts cleared. Howsoever, the thinking process that I mentioned, be it in terms of section A, be it in terms of section B, having that 8 to 9 steps studies to answer the case study, connecting that case study with the given section A syllabus, trying to justify on 3 grounds, right? Having value and stakeholder in mind when you're generating pros and cons. I hope these things, when implemented well, can give you the necessary push or motivation to get better. All right. So, whomsoever has made it to this end, again, you have my respect and you have my gratitude. Thank you for giving me your time. All the very best to those who have written mains. No matter what happens, just remember you have done reasonably well given the time you had. And in case if it doesn't happen for you, there's always a tomorrow. And for those who have not written mains this time around, for those who are just starting, make utmost use of the time that is in front of you. Please have conceptual clarity. Religiously revise and relentlessly, in a relentless manner, practice. My apologies for the stammering. All right? Relentless practice. Please do this. All the very best. Thank you.